The scene is set for the opening race of the year of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Live here from the circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. And what a terrific view that is from one of our drones hovering above the circuit. The famous scoring tower, which is almost as large as the grandstand that overlooks the pit straight. The pit boxes, the hospitality suite as well. This place continues to improve itself, which is more the travesty that we're not going to get a Spanish Grand Prix at this venue this year. But nevertheless, ELMS are here in force, the Michelin Le Mans Cup here in force, and we have now a 2-hour race to look forward to, which begins in just under 20 minutes' time. This is where we're going to be going in 2026. Le Castellet in just 3 weeks' time, then one 3-hour race, so no longer the 2 race format at Le Mans. It's going to be a Friday morning 3-hour race as round 3. Spa-Francorchamps, Silverstone and Portimao are the more familiar routes to the championship. And remember, 3 different categories again in 2026. My name's Johnny Palmer. I'm joined, as always, by Graham Goodwin. We have Steph Wentworth in the pit lane and potentially on the grid as well, as a huge field of cars, 43 of them, Graham, lining up for the get-go in, as I say, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody from Barcelona. Grey skies, but still fairly warm up there. A little bit of a breeze, but this is the circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona, and a very technical challenge it offers as well. Potential trouble points with turns 1 and 2. Turn 7 has proved tricky through this week as well. But what it does do, Johnny Palmer, is it does provide a great forum for excellent mixed-class racing. This one, visually, I have to tell you, my favourite car on the grid.
OK. This grid or the whole of the paddock?
This grid.
This particular grid. Oh,
nice executive from SMC Motorsports. Emilio de Villota Jr., the powerhouse behind this. And Lena Bula, who I think is on the front row, is she not? She is indeed. It's RSGP first and second. It's Kessel Racing's number 21 car, 4th on the grid in GT3. But, pretty much all black car will stand out.
Well, Lena had experience of starting from the front row this time last year as well. It's actually an RSGP lockout, but done by different drivers in their relevant session. So Enzo Peugeot putting in the pole position time. We will get to all of the crucial things that are happening in LMP3 in a moment, because this is our chance to feast our eyes then on some potentially new teams and drivers within GT3, not called LMGT3, because it's not. This is the global GT3 category, and that was Alessandro Cozzi's car, or at least he took it to pole position. Should be starting, as well as it was a bronze only session, and generally the bronze drivers start.
The 51 car from AF Corsa, one of 2 run by the ever-present Italian team, Yannick Dalmas there, and it was Gabby Aubry, I think it was, on the left-hand side. Was Gabby in the European Le Mans Series overalls there?
I didn't notice, in truth, but I don't know why he might be. Why? Are you thinking he might be involved?
Pit lane reporter, maybe?
OK.
Broadcast. 88 from AF Corsa. And that's the other car from AF on the front row in GT3. The number 88 car. So a gaggle of Ferraris towards the front, but not on pole, because this is the car. Stefano Moreno in the number 11 Code Racing Development Aston Martin that took pole position earlier today, Johnny.
Yeah, Sebastian Moreno getting quicker and quicker. 1.3 seconds clear in the end of Ray Acosta, the third. So we have Colombian racer Moreno in number 11 up against the American pilot for AF Corsa, and 3 Ferrari 296 GT3 Evos, in fact, 2nd, 3rd and 4th position on the grid. But behind, not a single Aston Martin, because yes, that's the highest placed of the Vantages, but there is one further back as well in car number 10 in the returning Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, which was sported by Philippe Saga during qualifying earlier today.
Yeah, and when we get back to Le Castellet, there should be a 3rd. We lost the Aston Martin from Blackthorn earlier this week with a hefty shunt in testing. That car should be back later in the year. In front of that comes this astonishing fleet of, what is it, 34 LMP3 cars this year in the two classes, LMP3 Pro-Am. That'll be the one we're looking at next, and LMP3. The only difference between the two classes is that LMP3 Pro-Am must have at least one bronze driver. 28th overall and 4th in the class is the Racing Spirit Le Mans number 24 car. And 4th in LMP2 Pro-Am. Head of Communications at LMEM, Marius, on the grid, enjoying the moment.
So this is a huge field of cars. The start line will govern where the race, funnily enough, starts in a couple of formation laps time, and then the finish line in a slightly different location. We will talk about it at the point in time, but very important to be through the grid hatchings at the start of the race, and that is drilled home several times during the driver's briefing. It has to be a neat and tidy start to avoid any penalties. We had a season eventually of returning to 2-hour races, with the exception of Silverstone in 2025. Silverstone again will be an hour and 50-minute race. But the nice little introduction, and I teased this at the start of our broadcast, that it'll be a 3-hour race at Le Mans on the Friday before the main 24-hour race. So all part of that weekend and on the full circuit.
So we just went through Breton Racing, 62 car third. This, however, is the second place car on the grid for LMP3 Pro-Am. It's a 71 car from Rinaldi Racing. Stefan Aust it was at that time, and he will start the car before we move to the pole sitter in LMP3 Pro-Am. This is the car. It's the number 34 Ligier, Alexander Bukantsov. Rashid Khan as well will race this car. They are the top times in qualifying for LMP3 Pro-Am, but ahead of them, Johnny, 24 more LMP3s in the LMP3 class as a standalone. We're going to move swiftly up the grid. This is the number 8 car. It's from the BWT Muka Motorsport car.
And it won't be the qualifying driver put in for the opening stint. So Mattis Plushkel did the time of 1:37.0, but it'll be his teammate Maximilian Angelard to take the opening stint. And for a 2-hour race, the minimum stint time is 50 minutes, 50, before you can then get out of the car, do the full pit stop, which must include a driver change, tyre change and fuel going into the car, and then you can rejoin. And as long as your co-driver also does a minimum of 50 minutes, everything should be good.
Here's the first of 2 Brutal Fish by Campos Racing cars we'll see in this run up and down the grid. The number 12 car starting from 4th position on the grid. This new addition to the Michelin Le Mans Cup grid. And Campos Racing with a very proud history in junior single-seaters, not just junior, all the way up to and including F2, of course, for them. This is their first expedition into sports car racing. And the sister number 19 car sitting third, Matisse Rieber, it was, that started the car in qualifying. The number 19 car sits third on this grid, so it's both the Campos Racing cars, Brutal Fish by Campos Racing cars together, and it's a similar story, Johnny, for the front row, where it's Duquesne on pole for this race and in the LMS.
Always the two national anthems ahead of a race here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So the Spanish national anthem followed by Els Segadors, the national anthem of Catalonia. And we thank those involved for a mood-setting introduction to the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Still a lot of fans bouncing around this venue. They've been pouring in from something like 8 o'clock this morning. And this is very Spanish, I suppose, to have a race so late in the day. You know, your sort of lunchtime siesta, and then you come back to the racetrack, and we've got a 6:20 start, which will take us all the way through till 8:20, therefore. And just time then to pause for maybe a beer and a bit of a late evening meal.
Yep, RHGP will be on the front row of this grid, both their decaying DO9s, and it will be Lena Bula in the second place car, the number 86. Daniel Frost from Singapore will start the pole-setting 85 that was put on that position by his teammate Enzo Peugeot. So
there, the Singaporean racer Daniel Frost and Lena Bula for RSGP, Lucas Fluxer, Lorenzo's brother, for Brutal Fish by Campos Racing and the Spanish outfit, and that's a twosome on the second row as well, both from the same team. August Reba to start the number 12 car. Maximilian Angelard for Muka Motorsport ahead of Forestier Racing by VPS and Ruhr Meyerhaus. Then in 7th and 8th places, it's Giovanni Macchio for 23 Events Racing and the second of the Forestier Racing by VPS cars for Lucas Fekeri. Then Philip Lindberg for High Class Racing, joined by More Motorsports' Tim Gerhards. Then Maxwell Dodds for ANS Motorsport and Team Virage's Jude Peters. Matt Bell for Nielsen Racing and Mikael Pitamba for car number 4, Nielsen Racing as well. So they've locked out the 7th row together. Cedric Ultramar and ANS Motorsports' Michael Christensen Ilan ahead of Christian Jorgensen for Inter-Europol competition and Andrea Vieira. Next up, it's Ewan Thomas and Isak Barashi for Breton and 23 Events Racing. Aditya Patel for Ajit Redant Racing, sharing with none other than Narain Karthikeyan. We'll see him later on in the piece, all being well. Hayden Chance in car 68. CLX Motorsports' Kevin Rabin and Geronimo Gomez for Vector Sport RLR. Then on into the LMP3 Pro-Ams. Alexander Bukantsov taking pole position. This was a bronze-only session earlier into Europol competition. Stefan Aus for Rinaldi Racing is second in this subcategory. Then Jacek Zilonka and Christian Gysi for Breton and for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Steve Parrow's Rinaldi Racing 66 starts from 29th ahead of Eric de Donker and Motorsport 98. It's Andrew Ferguson and Michael Howe for P4 and High Class Racing. Ajit Redant by Virage. Ajit Kumar himself taking the opening stint with George Nakos alongside. Nakas in the GG Classics car. And finally, 9 GT3 cars for Sebastian Moreno, who we mentioned, for Code Racing Development. AF Corsa's Ray Acosta starts the 88 Ferrari ahead of Alessandro Cozzi for AF. Kessel Racing's Oscar Rinzovic. Gonzalo de Andres Martin for SMC Motorsport and the McLaren. Racing Spirit of Le Mans Aston Martin, Philippe Saga. Reinhold Kran, Kessel Dynamic GT. Kessel Racing's Lorenzo Ferdinando Innocenti and Josip Maiola for Biogas Motorsport, the Spaniards at their home race. I will get quicker with that grid read, but there's lots of new names and some of them are quite lengthy as well. But
some double barrel stuff in amongst that lot.
Thankfully there are 2 formation laps for me to gather my breath.
So 2 formation laps, as is the norm nowadays in this post-tyre warmer era for ACO rules racing. And off they go around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Leading car keeping them at bay for the moment, but not for long. 43 cars, 3 different classes. And what kind of start to the season are we going to get? Is it going to be a race with pace, with guile, with strategy, or not?
I really want it to be the former, but the fact that we've got so many cars on this grid, 43, lots of new drivers that are not necessarily used to this circuit, or if they're used to the circuit, they're not used to this type of machinery on the track, and particularly early on, where you've got so many bronzes in this opening stint, on cold tyres as well, where the cars are closely bunched. Often turns 1, 2 and 3 can be the scene of the odd incident, but what I'd really like to see is a few clean racing laps to kick a new season off. And this track, there's some wide expanses to it, nice wide approach to turn number 1, but then there are lots of corners that are really only single file, and there needs to be some give and take, quite clearly. Even if you've qualified slightly out of position, you're not going to get those places back again on the first tour of the Circuit de Barcelona.
Yeah, cool heads required here. Who's going to get that sorted early on in their career in the Michelin Le Mans Cup? It has proved to be, Johnny Palmer, a very good feeding ground for the very hungry appetite of the ELMS and WC Paddock's number of drivers and teams starting their career up the ladder in this series in its, what, 10-year, 11-year history now?
Into year 10 right now, in fact. Yeah, 2016 was the first season where it was predominantly GT3s, with the sprinkling of LMP3s added at Le Mans in 2016 in the support races there. And yes, this is therefore beginning the 10th year. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm now replying to Steph Wentworth, who you cannot hear, but Steph throws at me, actually it's the beginning of the 11th season. Yes, you are right, Steph. It's the 10th anniversary, but this is the beginning of season 11. Yeah. We should have discussed that beforehand. And also a conversation with you doesn't really work unless we can hear you. It
was fairly seamless, I think you'll find the audience will agree.
But yeah, I hear Steph Wentworth correcting me in my sleep sometimes.
You're not sleeping properly?
Well, not with her head banging around. No, going, I think you'll find this, Johnny, actually. And she's always 9 times out of 10 right. Anyway, we will be hearing from Steph, actually on air, during the course of this race, interviewing either ingoing drivers, outgoing drivers, and then winning drivers.
Even possibly some disappointed drivers.
Well, we'll like to try and avoid that, but yes, that might be where the story takes us as well. Wonderful to witness Barcelona from this kind of height. I was a bit lower than this last night as part of one of the welcome functions, which is on the hospitality bridge that sits across the track on that back straight. But yeah, to work out precisely the roads that we use to get in here in the mornings and exit in the evenings, that view is superb. And the nature of this track folds itself back on itself several times. And that's why we get these constant radius corners at turn 3 and turn 4, which are so brutal on tyre wear, particularly if you don't treat them so well in the opening stints. Each car in LMP3 gets 3 sets of tyres, so 12 individual Michelin tyres for the qualifying session and the race. Slightly more tyres at your disposal in GT3, with 16 tyres in total, or 4 sets. So you shouldn't really be running too short of tyres. There's easily enough for a stint each, only really expecting for those cars that do well in this race 2 stints. You can make that pit stop kind of whenever you want, but it'll be dictated by the 50-minute minimum stint time for all drivers, regardless of rating. So the dramatic music is pumped out via the public address system here around the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Big crowd in the main grandstand, big crowd in the grandstand that overlooks turn 10 as well. And 43 cars, 24 of them in this opening tranche in LMP3, are about to see a brand new season burst into life then. We'll be heading towards twilight in a couple of hours' time to make it a really dramatic finish to round 1. We're on the way then for a brand new year, 10th anniversary, season 11 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and it's almost 4 abreast, but it is a good getaway from the pole-sitting car of Daniel Frost, and the second race GP car will slot into line as well. There's a spin though mid-pack, I'm afraid to say, and that's taken 2 or 3 cars with it into the gravel track.
That was one of the Campos Racing cars from the very front of the grid, and that was in close contention with the second place car as they came through turn 1, Johnny.
So it was August Raber in the number 12 car, which is tumbling now down the order, and the other cars involved, the 20 high-class racing car of Cedric Ultramar, maybe CLX car. No, CLX is in. Cedric Ultramar is in the CLX car. He was delayed. Ajit Racing for Ajit Patel was delayed, as was August Raber, who we mentioned, and Philip Lindbergh, who had nowhere to go.
We've seen Lindbergh's car stuck in the gravel, so I think we're going to get an intervention here quite quickly.
Safety car deployed. Safety car deployed. Leader slow down to 80.
Not a surprise, so we'll get another chance to have a look at that. It is indeed one of the campus racing cars, which you quite rightly said. We've seen them drop down all the way through the order.
Thank you, leader.
So the 85 car to your left as we look at the grid is Danielle Frost. He got a good getaway. Lena Bula trying to stay out of trouble, but for the time being she was right in the middle of the two Campos cars. To the inside line went the third place car. Did the two Campos cars actually make contact?
If they stumbled across each other, it was the second of the two.
So Fluxa to the inside line at turn 1, and as Fluxa tries to go to the natural racing line at turn 2, I wonder whether August Raber was already there.
And there was further contact in amongst the GTs as well. RSGP, tensions high, but I think their cars are absolutely fine. There was definitely contact at the rear of this field. There was some bodywork, something went flying as they made it way through turn 1, the GTs. There you go. Yeah. It was the McLaren on one of the Ferraris.
It was, I'm afraid, Brutal Fish Campos on Brutal Fish Campos.
Queue in one line behind the safety car.
Sort of self-inflicted, wasn't it?
And also having to go through the gravel was Giovanni Mascio.
The cars which are not in line, is it that message that you have a problem? Because otherwise we will instruct the other cars to overtake you. All cars in one line behind safety car, please.
So Mascio through the gravel, rejoined there in car 50.
Lindbergh made his way straight to the wall.
Okay, so Lindbergh has not... Yeah, he's still stranded down at turn number 1. But everybody else looks to be moving.
That's the last message from my side. All cars in one line. Cars which are not keeping the alignment will be reported to the stewards. All cars in one single line.
So Lindbergh looked to me from the angles we've seen to have taken avoiding action to the right of the stranded car, through the gravel trap and straight sideways on into the wall.
Oh dear, you wait for the whole weekend to build up to this race in the evening, and then the car lasts a couple of corners and nothing to do with your own making either. There's nothing to be said, of course, that the car can't be towed out
to close the gaps behind the safety car. Reminder, it's a 5 cars length maximum between cars. Car 49, I need you to close the gaps.
And car 49 being warned that the gap must be closed. That is Michael Howe in his slightly out of position high-class racing LMP3 Pro-Am car. Somehow Michael has fallen behind 4 of the GT3 cars, but again he may well have been hooked up in that opening corner skirmish. We spoke about the 4 LMP3 cars involved, but an LMP3 Pro-Am looks to have had to go wayward as well.
Car 20, please instruct your driver to weave off racing line to get rid of the gravel before rejoining.
So that is Philip Lindbergh. So yes, indeed, that car is going to rejoin. So we're going to be back to all 43 cars, remarkably.
Hasn't held on to the lead lap, though, has it, Philip?
No, he has not.
Because they been around again to pass him, sadly.
But it looks like it will just be 1.
Yeah. Well, that's better than it might have been. Could have been a full retirement, and therefore no drive at all for Philip's teammate in car number 20.
Oh, I don't think that's
20,
quite following.
Off racing line to get rid of the gravel.
And he's also got the cheese wedge at the back, rear right of that car. That will need to come in and be fixed. So I'm afraid Philip Lindbergh not remotely following race director's instructions there.
Great deal of frustration and aggravation involved, but that is not an excuse. Of course, it might be a reason why he's trying to quicken the speed, but sadly, with him being in the wall for a lap now, then it's trying to pick up the pieces as much as possible.
It will be at least one more lap behind the safety car, of course, whilst the intervention workers get back to their place of readiness and safety. So it is our race GP. Daniel Frost, Lena Bula 1-2. The undelayed Brutal Fish by Campos car third, number 19 car in the hands of Lucas Flux across. Then for STA Racing by VPS, their 29 car sits fourth, 99 from More Motorsports.
So our race GP, first and second over the line. Then Lena Bula started to get a bit bullied by the two Brutal Fish Campos Racing cars. To her right, Lucas Fluxer. To her left, August Reber. Reber tried then to get ahead of Fluxer halfway up the curb, but all that did was pitch his car into a spin. Amazingly, he then didn't get hit with any force, at least, because so many cars took to the gravel trap on the outside of turn 2. And although they had to pick their way through the stones, and therefore some damage was picked up at the same time, they're all still running. Lindbergh's now in the pit lane, and here he is to prove that fact. That will be to repair the rear of this car and to make sure that the cheese wedge is secured somehow, because both need to be present on the car. They don't necessarily need to rush either, because they've already lost the lap. So you might as well make sure that the car is safe and legal to continue, to make sure that you can still be running by the end of the race, even if they won't get a result.
So rear deck removed to allow access. We'll take a good look and see whether or not there's any other damage to that rear corner. We'll have a chance to look at that, or the driver to feel it on the way back to the pits. It would have sounded horrible. A paint tin full of marbles, with the gravel still all around the underfloor of the car.
Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount that Philip Lindbergh could have done about bringing gravel with him, but he was told to try and stay off the racing line as much as possible. Safety car is going to retire. They're going to be withdrawn at the end of this reasonably short run for it, but unfortunately the safety car being seen before the first racing lap was completed.
Reminder to all teams, no overtake before the line, no overtake before the line.
There's something trailing, by the way, from the second of the for STA Racing cars, the 92 car sits down in 13th place, but something
Green
trailing
flag,
on that
green
car.
flag, no overtake before the line.
Back to green we go. No overtaking before the control or the finish line then. And one or two getting back up to speed at different speeds. One car peeling off. It looked like to pit lane there. We'll get confirmation of that in a moment. Was that one of the ANS cars? Which, yes it is. It's the number 9 car of Maxwell Dodds, which has come down pit lane to join the high-class racing car of Philip Lindbergh. So clearly something not quite right there. Down the inside goes Christian Jorgensen in the 43 Inter Europol competition car. He's having a good dice with Mikkel Christensen, I think. As we're back, as I say, to racing conditions. 3 abreast down at turn number 1, and the LMP3 car that was duking it out with 2 Ferraris had to take to the grass. There's the 77 McLaren in the hands of Gonzalo De Andres, and up to 3rd position now, right on the tail of Alessandro Cozzi.
I think that was actually Kumar being rather muscled out the way by the leading group in GT3. GT3 still led by our pole sitter. 29 car from STA Racing. That's an LMP2 car, my apologies. Not quite sure why that's on pit lane.
Ah, okay. Yes, we were trying to identify which STA Racing car it is. We have got those in this race. Rue Meyerhouse runs in 4th position, but you were seeing off camera an LMP2 almost practicing its pit stops in the middle of a Le Mans Cup race. Okay, well, we're quite a way away from these cars needing to officially pit as the 2 R-Ace GP cars complete another lap. Damage to the front right of Maxwell Dodd's car, I'm hearing from Steph, so that's why the ANS Motorsport car had to pit from a good position. I did wonder why he wanted to give up that spot, but given little choice, it's a nose change, in fact, on car number 9.
And Lenny Reed, by the way, has rejoined the race in that number 20 car, so they've had a driver change in that, 3.5 minutes that car had been on pit lane. Chequered Racing still leading the way. Sebastian Moreno with Alessandro Cozzi in close contention in GT3. From there on in, we do get into the delayed LMP3 cars. Here's the CLX car, caught up in that turmoil on that one, looking to find a way by the leading pack of GT3s, doing it reasonably well. Can't make good progress. Is the McLaren up to third here?
Yeah. So big chunk out of the front of car 50, missing its headlight, it looks like now, because of that run through the gravel. Grab sight of that in a moment, but might be about to incur the wrath of the stewards if there's only one headlight effectively present, let alone working on that car. Danielle Frost having to deal with some slower traffic already. This will be a lot earlier than he was expecting to need to overtake, but he's no time to lose because his teammate Lena Buller is sniffing around there at the rear bumper of his car. Well, there's probably about a 10 or 12 car length gap, but if he delays too long in overtaking, then Lena's going to be right there.
That is the delayed high-class racing car, isn't it? The 20 car. Yellow's out there at turn 11, and that could be
two GT cars off the road.
I think it's the lead pair. It's a leading pair of cars.
Moreno. What's happened?
Yellow flag at T11. We have two cars in the gravel bed.
I'm afraid that was all about
on the left-hand side.
The Ferrari.
No gap there. There was probably half a Ferrari 296 gap, and it's taken the Code Racing Aston Martin with it. And did you see the McLaren sneaking through? You'd said about the great start for SMC Motorsport and Gonzalez de Andres. Well, now McLaren lead GT3. You've got to be there, I suppose, to take the opportunities, but we do not like to see two very quick cars off in the gravel. It was an innocuous bit of contact, and there's now even more of a collection, this time of three LMP3s.
Yellow.
Three of them, all three are from the LMP3 category.
Safety car deployed, safety car deployed.
There's the 15.
Leader to slow down, please, leader to slow down. We have two cars on the T11 left-hand side, and we have as well cars on T5.
Geronimo Gomez is the one stuck in the gravel. That's the number 15 with the rear wheels properly buried. The other two managed to get away, including car 26.
It's the 87 and the 26 were both caught up on it, but it was triggered by a lock-up from the RLR Virage car. That's what triggered the incident, and it's the 15 that's ended up the worst off here. So we've got three cars at the moment in strife. Safety car is deployed for recovery of all three. I think all three will be able to recover the track. It's not a great lap.
No, that is for sure. So Ewan Thomas for Breton Racing, number 26, heavily delayed there. And the other car that was slow through that sector...
It's 87.
...was 87, Kevin Rabin. OK. But there were other cars slow through there too, but not quite as slow as Kevin.
In avoidance, to be honest with you.
All right.
Okay, you will find double yellows at T5, you have double yellows at T5 and T11. This is where we have marshals and equipment exposed. No weaving in this area. Safety car to reduce his speed in these areas.
So the 87 is the CLX Motorsport car. I mean, the real unfortunate thing there is that there were three LMP3 cars, a battered and bruised McLaren, but that doesn't stop it leading its category, GT3 race leader, and probably going a lap clear of these two cars now. The Alessandro Cozzi Ferrari, number 51 from AF Corsa, and this was Cozzi's move.
Everyone to bear left T5, T5 bear left behind the safety car.
It's bitter goal for the Code Racing car, seeing its Salter rejoining the track first. That will not go down well.
And as you say, almost an out of control number 15 car barreling its way down the inside of turn number 5. Geronimo Gomez had no hope of stopping the car, even if he'd been on his own on the racetrack, but he takes two with him. And Kevin Rabin now having to recover that situation. Ewan Thomas being the other. Ewan races for Breton Racing. So there's a great spread now of LMP3, Pro-Am and GT3 cars. They're in really no semblance of order. We've only had 15 minutes of this race, but
Car 15.
you could
15,
sense
please
Greg
instruct your driver to weave
frustration.
off racing line to get rid of the gravel. Same thing with car 11 at T11. Both cars to weave off racing line to get rid of the gravel.
There will be massive frustration aboard that Aston Martin.
Sebastian Moreno from pole position, and he was a fairly decent margin ahead of the chasing pack as well. In fairness to Alessandro Cozzi, he closed in on him legitimately through pure pace, but then
That was a poor move.
Cozzi didn't need to force the issue.
That was a poor move from the Ferrari, no doubt at all.
He had the speed on the Aston Martin. He just needed to wait for a better opportunity than that. But yeah, Cozzi, unfortunately, well, another incident involving the 51 car. Last year's incident involving the same car was far, far bigger, of course, when Marta Garcia had a huge off after contact from Melizio Dono, who was driving that 51 car, similar livery. But that is not the way to get to the head of the order.
So the 11 car has pitted. Does that mean there's damage to that car? Going to put the car up on the jacks.
Well, the diffuser appears to be intact. That's mainly because it wasn't the diffuser that was hit.
It's the front corner they're looking at.
Yeah, okay.
But the rear corner was where it took the hit.
Yes, but then as the Aston spun around, it then whacked the Ferrari as they were sort of facing one another.
Well, we can see the impact area.
That's, strangely enough, that's the bigger contact area, even though the initial tap to put the Aston into a spin was really just a little nibble.
Off the case, Johnny, is the issues are where that hit comes. What is it transferred the shock through? We bent the steering arm, we bent some part of the suspension, drive shaft if it's the rear. These are the things that can send the car tumbling back down the order or out of a race, and there's concern at Code Racing development.
All cars to close the gap behind safety car. Car 49, you are delaying everyone. 49, close the gaps.
So messages to those up and down the order to try and keep this race ticking on as quickly as we can. But there's a couple of
85,
cars
close
to
the gaps to
recover.
the safety car, please.
So further advice, just to make sure that we are ready to restart whenever necessary, as RHGP are first and second, Danielle Frost and Lena Bula, but what they are being denied of here,
in this lap. Safety car in this lap.
denied the
Reminder to all
opportunity
drivers, no overtake before the line.
to extend any sort of a gap, even though Frost will be feeling like he's got more pace than a few cars behind him. The third on the road is the now best placed by far Brutal Fish by Campos car driven by Lucas Fluxa. That's number 19. For SDA Racing by VPS comes
green
next.
flag. No overtake before the line.
So cautious out of turn 14. That is the necessity for so many, although one or two getting the jump. Actually, the top three are well clear of, well, that's one of the backmarking cars, isn't it, now that has got caught, the high-class racing car, and Philip Lindbergh wasn't necessarily picking up the pace. However, the driver of the Forestier Racing by VPS car had little choice, Rue Mayohouse, to stick in behind and wait for the control line. Now the overtaking can commence, and Forestier Racing looking to make up some catching there.
That 20 car, by the way, that has been down pit lane for that repair, is again trailing the cheese wedge from the rear right. So that's going to be back down pit lane before too much longer. There it is. In amongst the pack, you'd have to hope it hangs on and doesn't tumble down the track.
Yeah.
Here we go, another good look at it. I can tell you, by the way, the Code Racing team, meanwhile, are still looking at that number 11 car at not a lot of pace. Either way, its competitive days are over for today.
Yeah, and that's heartbreaking for Sebastian Moreno and his teammates coming here expecting, hoping for a good result in the opening race of the season, and it had gone brilliantly well to this point. Now there's a biogas Ferrari off the road for Josep Maiola, plugged in for the opening stint. The other real frustration, though, is that for Code Racing development, we may not see Nico Handke at the wheel of that car, the German silver racer, unless they squeeze him in if the car can be fixed. But it's sort of a run from an academic point of view, just for track time.
That was very much helped by Cozzi again. Oh dear. So not a great period for the 51 car. And that just managed to roll into the gravel as well, which will likely mean we get another intervention here.
That was at turn 5, and the car still shown on our track map as stranded in the gravel at turn 5. And the race leaders overall are not going to be that far away from that scene. Now, another thing at Gwen Borsier's disposal is to neutralise the race with a full course yellow, and that is precisely what he's going to do in about 30 seconds' time. So not a safety car this time, but instead the whole track will be limited, speed limited, to 80 kilometres per hour. It's a bit like a virtual safety car in Formula One.
All sorts of shenanigans in what is a crazy mixed-up race, and yet another incident. Oh, and a double hit. The 21 and the 49.
Full course yellow, full course yellow.
Well, Oscar Rindzovic was doing okay to that point, running in 4th position, but unfortunately these GT cars are dropping like flies.
Turn 5 bare left, turn 5 bare left, and
lots of early contact, and Nielsen Racing off the road now
Both those cars were going well as well. That was the initial contact, and then almost kind of got hooked up, had to go wide to avoid, and then hit the right rear of the 49 car as it made its way towards the barrier.
Yeah, you feel for Rindzovic because he wasn't sure really which way to go of that spinning LMP3 car. And you can guarantee once he'd made his decision, then that car was kind of head straight towards him. And it was diminishing returns because that route around the back, as this is the Nielsen car, the Duquesne going straight on at turn 7 for Matthew Bell.
Safety
so Matt
car
Bell's
deployed, safety car deployed. 85, you keep
car.
80, everyone to pack up behind 85. Everyone to pack up behind the leader, 85, keep 80.
So, after Gwen Borsier, I think, thought there could be a quick snatch to recover the biogas Ferrari, this has made a safety car somewhat inevitable.
All cars to close the gaps behind the leader. All cars to close the gaps behind the leader. Only the leader to keep 80. All other cars to close the gaps, please.
Unfortunately, from Nielsen Racing's perspective, they'd already decided to put Matt Bell in as the opening stint before... Actually, you have to do that before qualifying. And now, isn't hindsight a wonderful thing? The last thing you want is your gold driver in during a stint like this, which is stop-start, all the gaps stay the same, and Matt Bell's probably going to get out with the car in pretty much the same position as he started it.
Yeah, whereas the other car, and they've been lapping in formation pretty much until that point, the hands of Mikael Batamba is up in 7th place and running well.
Yeah. Well, that's sometimes the luck of the draw when so much around you is not of your making, if you like.
The gas car making its way back into, or onto rather, the track.
Okay, leader to keep 80, leader to keep 80. Everyone to close the gaps behind the safety car, please. And we have cars at turn 3 on the left-hand side.
Well.
So, 2 cars side by side. Similar.
Reminder, left-hand side, turn 3. We have cars in the runoff. Turn 5 is now clear.
Similar to positions to where the 2
Leader
GT cars
85,
ended up.
you're doing a brilliant job.
As in the 11 Code Racing Aston and the 51 Ferrari, because of that flick back again. It was a spin for the LMP3 after the contact, and then that clattered into the side of Oscar Rindzovic's car.
I would say, by the way, looking a bit further down the order, one car having a great run to that point in recovery was that Brutal Fish by Campos racing car, back up into 12th position in class and heading back towards the points at this stage after that turn 1 mishmash.
95 minutes of the race still to go. Remember, 50 minutes is the minimum stint time for any of these drivers. So they might elect to get an early stop done if you've saved a gold maybe for the second stint. And that is the case for one or two others. I've already talked about Aditya Patel, who shares with Narain Karthikeyan. So Karthikeyan still to come in the number 36 Ajit Red Ant Racing car. If you've got a bronze in your combination, generally all the bronzes began in both LMP3 Pro-Am and GT3. The GT3 runners are dwindling, it has to be said, or certainly those on the lead lap are. And still puzzled as to precisely why Alessandro Cozzi ended up in the position that he did to then have his moment with Josip Maiola, particularly as he'd already had contact with one fellow GT car.
Well, he closed up with the safety car. So because they towed the 51 car out to the gravel before the Aston Martin, he had time under that safety car to close the field.
Yeah.
The next car in front of him was the biogas car.
Yeah. No, it's not a question of how he caught him, but I don't understand why he was in a position where he's sort of charging his way past when clearly the biogas car was marginally ahead, but we didn't have a clean replay of that contact and what put him precisely in that part of the track. This is what happened at the start of the race and where the contact in amongst the GTs began. That's where the McLaren picked up its damage.
With the 51, we can now see.
Yeah.
That's,
so the 77 McLaren of SMC Motorsport is doing very nicely indeed. Thank you very much, despite it carrying that damage. I've just noticed as well that the car that I thought was missing its headlight, actually the headlight is obscured by a bit of stray bodywork. So that's a dive plane, I think, that's been pushed back onto the headlight of said car. But yeah, the McLaren doesn't look pristine, it has to be said, but one of its headlight covers has been pushed back, but otherwise it's okay. And
they're not going to get away with never raced or rallied. I think, is that a piece of Ferrari in it? It's not, no, it's just the front bodywork, lower bodywork of the McLaren that's folded back, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, we can now tell from this angle that the McLaren was a little bit hot into the first corner actually, and did rather clatter into the back of Alessandro Cozzi's 51 Ferrari. I'm sure that's on a long list of things to be investigated at some point.
Well, other bits and pieces to add to the field of woe here is that there is visible rear damage to that 49 car. Astoundingly, Johnny, at this point, there's only one car out the race, and that is the number 11 Code Racing Aston Martin. Well, yet to be seen whether or not either the 49 or the 21 is in a fit state to return. You can see more clearly there, pretty much the mirror image of damage that we've seen to the sister car. So it's been a pretty rotten first 29 minutes for high-class racing.
Through they go. This, of course, is eating away at the race time. RHGP will be pretty happy about that, though, because there's no opportunity for any of their rivals to overtake them. I can't imagine that this safety car will last all the way through till 20 past 8. Oh, I've said that now. But no, we'll get some racing in, rest assured, because as more and more experienced drivers get on board, I'd hope that the nature of how this race has begun will quieten down a tad.
Oh, we can only hope so, can't we?
And RHGP are in a good spot now. Can they extend this, though, when we do get back to full racing action?
Yeah,
Car
right.
49, you must box the car to repair the rear cheese edge. 49, you must box the car.
So, yeah, the cheese wedge is present. It's just no longer functioning as a tail light, and it needs to be vaguely in the position of the one on the right rear. Wheel damage on Ferrari number 21 for Oscar Rinzevic. So even if he can get that car returned to the pit lane, it's going to have to need certainly a right side wheels. And I'm not surprised at that, because it got a firm whack from the still spinning Michael Howe car.
Yeah, away we come. We've been to 5 seconds time. The second quarter of this race. Right right now, the only manufacturer that's getting worthwhile headlines is BMW, because we're getting far too much of a view of the BMW safety car. BMW aren't even in this race. Here's the 50 car. You were saying about that damage or the debris that is obscuring the front end of that car. Looks to me that as if the 49 believes they may have a somewhat terminal problem. Away comes the Kettle Racing Ferrari. Now he'll be feeling the damage at that rear corner at this point.
So, been seeing far too many Manitous in action, and as you said, the BMW brand present as well as part of the circuit vehicle, the manufacturer of choice here at
21,
Barcelona.
please make sure you stay off track and let the pack go. 21, please stay off track and let the pack go.
And as those two cars that left the track
21, very good,
are being recovered, Michael Howe and Oscar Rinzovic, still only the, strictly speaking, the one retirement, and we don't even know that Code Racing Development will not take further part in this. I sense they will not.
It looks to me like the 49 is done. That looks to be being recovered to a place of safety. The 21 will need to come into the pits at the very least for replacing the right rear wheel. 49 is being lifted, I think, to a place of safety.
Now, how far away are, still a good 20 minutes or so from the first permitted pit stops, but drive time does count even when a safety car and a full course yellow is out on the racetrack. So, I mean, that's why it's so frustrating for somebody like Matt Bell, because they might have thought, well, let's cut the cake in a different way. Let's think about this outside the box. At least Rinjovic's Ferrari is moving again. It's going to need some love and attention by the time it gets back to pit lane.
A little bit of damage, but not much to the front. Looks like there's some bodywork and maybe a bit of wrap that's peeled back, but it's that right rear wheel where there was a substantial whack that is bent. Could be lucky and it's just the rim.
So up in the sky, not quite the sky, but that is unfortunately the way that the 49 car for Michael Howe will be exiting the first race of the season, car number 49, and that means no action for Andrew Rackstraw either. Another South African who has a lot of Porsche racing experience from last year, particularly in the UK, a Porsche Carrera Cup GB champion, in fact. So sadly, Rackstraw going to have to wait for his LMP3 experience in this European Championship.
Yeah, Andrew's been sniffing around the paddock for a couple of seasons now. Come close to a drive. Something else smoky there, so a bit of a lock-up. Was that another trouble for... Which one is that? Is that the 15? It is the 15, that's the RLR car, isn't it? It's a car that's already had its own woes. There is the biogas car pulling off the circuit, so has not managed to get itself around to the pit lane. It's gone past the pit lane, has stopped on the pit straight. In comes the 21, just at the point where we could have gone back racing. We've got another car in strife.
Not much fun at all to try and navigate your way through this. Whoever does win in each of the three categories will certainly feel like they've had a hard day's work at the office, and there'll be a heck of a lot of luck involved with winning this race, I sense, as well. It's not all going to be down to the pre-thought about strategy, but RHGP have this knack of also managing to fend their way through these choppy waters. Did it on several occasions last year in this championship. So out of turns 7 and 8 go the race leaders. Still Daniel Frost and Lena Bula. Lucas Fluxer, the Spaniard, sitting on their tail for Brutal Fish by Campos, and then Rui Meerhaus in fourth.
Quite a lot of damage on the side of that Vector Sport RLR car. flapping away. Let's hope that hasn't reached the cooling system. 15 at the very back of the queue, and about to be joined by the 21, which are waiting for the 49 and the 23 to be got to a place of safety. And as if to add to the headlines of this race, the 21 has just been in for the replacement of that right rear wheel, is under investigation for crossing the pit exit red light.
Oh dear. It is raining and pouring and, well, just almost time to give up for certain teams, and we've not actually been going for much more than half an hour.
Is there a button on this thing that we can do a slow hand clap?
I thought you were going to say restart, reset the race, and let's attempt all of this again. But that is the nature of sport at the end of the day. Might not have started too well for some.
Okay, all cars to bear right on the main straight, all cars to bear right on the main straight. Bear right on the main straight.
But what it could well do is guarantee a rather unusual result and some points that may end up as being crucial by the end of the season. You know, to say we won at Barcelona, well, that's what swung it for us in the whole of the championship. There are only 6 races at the end of the day.
Red light, red light, red light, red light, red light. Yeah,
sorry, you're not going to argue your way out of that.
Pretty blatant.
At any point. And the red light as visible our side as it is from the other side, let me assure you. Clearly, lots running through the mind of Oscar Rindzevic, but so important to be observing something as simple as a red light at the end of pit lane. Again, that is a crucial thing mentioned during so many drivers' briefings early on in their career and later on as well.
Don't think it'll be too long before we do get this race back to green flag running. By the way, it is just a matter of getting the 49, like I say, to a place of safety. But before we do, 23 quite quickly there as well. Before we go back to green flag running, let's go back down to Steph, who is on the pit wall with reigning LMP3 Pro-Am champion, Gillian Henrion.
I am joined for the first time this season by Gillian Henrion in the pit lane of the 98, Motorsport 98. Welcome, it's good to be back. It's very Michelin Le Mans Cup to be under such intervention at the start of the race.
Yeah, no, that's amazing for the Michelin Le Mans Cup to be in Barcelona with such a good public. And yeah, the race is pretty impressive at the moment. So yeah, let's see how it's going now.
It's great to have you back in this paddock. Obviously, you're a very big name in the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the ELMS. How do you feel to be back this season?
Yeah, Le Mans Cup is one of the championships which the level is pretty high, and to be back again, trying to get maybe another title, it's pretty good, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Expectations for once you hopefully get in the car?
I still don't know, pushing for getting the P1, but for sure getting some good points for the championship. It's more important to score any points during all the weekends. So yeah, let's see.
Always good to chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gillian Henrion with Steph Wentworth as part of his drive for this year in the 98 car, sharing with Eric de Donker. And where is Eric currently? Fourth in Pro-Am.
Yep, so this will be good news, by the way. It's not great news for most people, good news for them. At the moment, the first team off the podium in that LMP3 Pro-Am class, but we'll give him hope that he potentially joins the race. And the cars are coming down the pit lane with a safety car because they're clearing debris on the main straight.
Yeah. So that's going to make the pit stop count rather complicated now, because everybody's going to will have pitted before they actually properly pit for their mandatory stop, if you know what I mean. But the crucial thing is that the time spent in pit lane will not be enough. I'm not sure I've mentioned the minimum pit stop reference time for this venue for this opening round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but it is 160 seconds, by the way. So 2 minutes and 40. 2 minutes and 40 seconds, yeah, that's right, 2 minutes and 40 seconds or 160 seconds, depending on how you want to measure it. And all of these cars will be taking effectively a drive-through now, not a drive-through penalty, but they're just going from point to point, and they will all have one pit stop to their name if you're watching live timing.
And if you're wondering what that noise is in the background, it's not people in the car park protesting, it is actually the pit lane hooter, which is triggered by every car coming down. So at the moment it's sounding continuously. And trust me, on pit lane, that is really loud.
Yeah. It's also really loud from places like the hospitality suites and the media centre.
Pardon?
Indeed, that's what everyone's going to be saying right now, because it's relentless too. You get it at the end of a session when all the cars enter pit lane, and every single car remaining in the race has had to do that. So most cars now have one pit stop to their name. I noticed Maxwell Dodds, who in the ANS Motorsport car has been in already. That was to repair some damage. And
so we do need to remember when we're looking at pit stops, everybody's got one now.
Exactly, yes. And interestingly, the Lenny Reed car, number 20, for high-class racing, it has effectively been in the pits now for one of its stops for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. They did do a driver change. They did do tyres and fuel as well. The problem is it's not, what it won't have done is completed the opening stint for his teammate. So I don't really think that's going to be a car that we need to look out for.
I think we need to look at whether or not the rules have changed and whether or not they need to do everything in that stop. I think they do.
Yeah, they do, but if you do it nice and early, you've still got to do another stop to get Philip Lindbergh back in again to complete his 50 minutes. So it's not a way to win the race. We have had cases in the past where people have done that.
We have, and then they've changed the rules to stop them from doing that.
Yeah. Because, you know, there is some flexibility in how you navigate this race, but I don't think they want kind of really outside the box thinking, which some people might think, oh, why not? But it's trying to simplify matters before you can then really start to weave in the strategy in the European Le Mans Series in seasons to follow.
Looks to me as if we're going round at least one more time with this safety car.
Well, enthusiasm in this crowd here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya is not to be extinguished. They sadly haven't seen a great deal of racing in the opening 40 or so minutes. A few too many safety cars. There was that one full course yellow as well. But keep our fingers crossed, everybody, that we will be able to see plenty of green flag running in the second hour of this race. And some teams that took an early strategy call to put their quicker driver by far in some cases in this opening stint, well, that has quickly gone south, sadly.
That safety car has got the hurry up on now.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, we're no longer going through the pit lane, so that was the chance for the marshals on the main straight to do all of the necessary clear up. And now, with hopefully a bit less gravel on the racing line, certainly a bit less debris on the start-finish straight, we can't be that far away now from restarting this race again, with the whole of the top 10 all silver drivers and all separated by a very small amount of car lengths, as is stipulated in the regulations. No more than 5 car lengths between each, and we surely will be getting going pretty soon. And at about the time when the pit stop window, in inverted commas, opens, as in the 50 minutes that everyone has to do as an opening driver is completed, another 6.5 minutes in order for us to get there. The lights are out. There we go. So the lights were out. The weaving started to become a little bit more frantic. Then the lights on the top of the BMW are extinguished, and that confirms then that we will be racing again at the end of lap number 17. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Argy-bargy is part of motor racing, but we've had rather too much of it in this first segment of the 2026 Michelin Le Mans Cup. So, Daniel Frost, Lina Buller, have they kept their concentration through the course of that lengthy safety car? The same goes for Lucas Fluxer and the chasing Roe Meyerhaus for Forestier Racing by VPS. That's the top 4. Meyerhaus didn't have as good a getaway last time around, because remember there was that back marker stuck in front of him and he wasn't able to overtake the recovering high-class racing car.
Still plenty of shenanigans going on there. That's the 5 and the 68. 5 from 23 events, the 68 from M Racing.
GT3's racing again, and very, very late on the brakes there is Ray Acosta in the AF Corsa Ferrari, almost pushing the McLaren through that first sequence of corners. There wasn't a great deal of real estate between them at all, and the McLaren with a big old squirm as well, maybe affected by that Ferrari so close in behind. It's going to be a change for second place, however, as Lorenzo Innocenti for Kessel Racing spots the open door, and Acosta couldn't get his car back across the track to close that, so Innocenti, the Monegasque driver, up to second position.
Yep, so McLaren Ferrari becomes the same but with a different order behind. The 77 car now leading the 17, then the 88. Behind them, in close contention, is Philippe Sager in the number 10 Racing Spirit Le Mans. Aston Martin, actually it's changed back again. 17 has dropped back behind the AF Corsa car.
So it switches one way, switches back in the other direction as three cars arrive as one into turn 10. The pot has really been stirred. Is this the mistake from Innocenti? No, that was the overtake into turn number 4. So Lorenzo gets through there, and then he outbraked himself into turn 5. That rather opened the door on the exit. Oh, and there was a little bit of contact as he tried to rejoin as well. But thankfully not enough to dislodge.
What's happened here?
Now, hang on a minute.
What's happened here?
Was that before or after the overtake that we've just witnessed? It must have been afterwards.
The AF Corsa car is through to the lead.
Acosta in 88 has got ahead of Gonzalo De Andres to dispatch the McLaren from the lead of the race. So 88 goes from third up to first in the space of, well, a handful of corners.
Well, he went from second to third to second to first.
Yes, yes.
In the space of just a few more corners.
So all within the same lap. Frantic racing and sort of clean racing compared to what we've been seeing to this point, but still having a little bit of leaning here and there. You can get away with some of that in Grand Touring racing. Now there's going to be a stop-and-go penalty though for car 51 for causing a collision at turn 11, which was the incident involving the Code Racing Development Aston Martin, which resulted in the spin for the Code Racing Development Aston Martin and a bigger hit, but it's all going to be counted as one incident.
He gets another one, a drive-through penalty for causing a collision at turn 5, which was the one with the biogas one. So it's a stop and go and a drive-through for 51. So 2 penalties called at once. That car currently sits in 6th place. That probably will cost them a place. I'm not entirely sure it will, actually, because the 21 car's way back. It's a lap back, isn't it? So I'm not sure it's going to cost them a lap.
Even so, they, with that car, would have been wanting to fight for a victory and not a 6th or a 7th place finish.
What it fundamentally does at the moment is it drops them away from the potential to catch the rest of that pack.
Yes. Yeah, which Alessandro Cozzi might have been able to do because of all of this running with the field concertinaed.
88 car on pit lane, also on pit lane, by the way, the 98, Motorsport 98 car. We're not in the window yet, are we?
No. Okay. Because what I haven't done is checked all of the bulletins that were issued here at Barcelona, because sometimes at the start of the season a drive time is submitted on the regulations, and then at the discretion of the stewards that gets changed. But I haven't heard word that the 50 minutes has altered at all for a 2-hour race. That's what it was last year as well, so that was a drive-through.
So that hands the lead back to the McLaren. Here's the 51, there's past the 54, but now must serve a drive-through and a stop-go penalty. The 12, meanwhile, the brutal fish by Campos car, August Raber, that car is now going to drive-through penalty, causing collision at turn 5. That will be the original issue at the start of the race. No, that wasn't at turn 5. So there's another issue being dealt with there.
Okay. What I can't tell you at this stage is precisely what that penalty for car 88 was for. It was a drive-through penalty. Do you remember that message coming up?
Not at all.
No. And I can't find record of it, but I'm not suggesting it didn't happen. It didn't get a message. It's just that I'm struggling a little bit with some of the data coming through. Hopefully that's now rectified for the remaining hour and 10 minutes of this race. Still quite a bit of untidy bodywork at the rear of car number 20, by the way, for Philip Lindbergh after its skirmishes earlier on. these two cars are going to change position. That's the 12 and the 22 car.
That's the 12 car that has just, we've just been told has got a penalty going by, that's the Trajector's car, isn't it, the 22?
Car 22 for
It's for
Trajectors.
17th place, Andre Vieira. You will remember better from the Ligier European Series in recent years. Here comes the 17 and the 51 down pit lane. So 51 we absolutely know has got a drive-through penalty. 17 is coming in for a pit stop. This will be the stop-go for the 51, and they will have to come in again, and he's not been able to restart that car.
Did he get confused as to which one they were doing there? Because there was a stop-go and a drive-through.
Well, it wouldn't have gone to the pit stall for a drive-through.
What I was thinking was he was given a drive-through. He was given a stop-go and then a stop and hold, but it was a stop and go and a drive-through, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So it was just a stop and then go, but he stalled the car, perhaps.
Finally, some of that loose bodywork on the side of the 15 has let go on the pit straight, and that's on the racing line. It's got a chunk as well. That might be that we get another intervention, albeit maybe brief, for recovery of that. It is quite a strip of carbon fibre. There you go, you can see it there. Someone's going to collect that.
Lorenzo Innocenti has brought the number 17 car into pit lane, and this could be a driver change now because he's done his 50 minutes. 17 hasn't had a penalty.
No, I don't think so.
So, and also in, I notice...
That's the Brutal Fish car. They've got a penalty served. They've got a drive-through to serve.
So nobody else really is taking the early chance to pit. Down the inside now, M Racing's number 68 car. So this is a nice little clean battle between Hayden Chance and Isaac Barashi in car number 5 for 23 Events Racing. Oh, but there's potentially a bit of contact now, though. 5 on the rear of the 68 car, Barashi and Chance, but Chance did get through.
Just to confirm, that was the drive-through for the number 12 car, dropping it back behind the lead group of LMP3 Pro-Ams. Now we've got cars in for their first pit stops. It's a group of LMP3 Pro-Ams and GT3s that choose to do it first. McLaren stays out, so too does the number 88 car after taking that drive-through penalty. What would appear to be a drive-through penalty, but the Racing Spirit Le Mans Aston Martin and the Dynamic Porsche are both on pit lane now.
There is the Dynamic GT Porsche in its black and white livery, looking very, very smart, but doesn't immediately conjure pictures of the sort of lurid paint schemes that the Dynamic crew have had in the past. Well, it's swan-like affair at the front of the field for R-Race GP. I'm sure there are plenty of paddling feet in the garages, but you wouldn't know that from this this easy run, it appears, at the moment for Daniel Frost and Lena Bula out front.
Lucas Fluxacross, by the way, has not let them go. Still with Lena Bula as he's been from the very start of this race.
Yeah.
Now that's fairly impressive. He is in the number 19 car. Flag bearer for the Brutal Fish by Campus Racing Efforts. Car 24, meanwhile, under investigation for pit lane speeding. 87 for CLX Racing. So
the 24 car being the Racing Spirit of Le Mans entry in LMP3. So yes, that gap's opening up nicely for Daniel Frost at the sharp end of the order between the two R-Race GP Duquesnes. Also making a pit stop on this lap is Mikael Christensen Ilan. And the ANS Motorsport car then in for its scheduled pit stop. There'll be a driver change there as well.
On both CLX cars, 87 and 97 on pit lane now. Now, that's the physical gap between the two Duquesnes. Daniel Frost pulling away here from Lena Bula, who's under pressure, albeit not immediate pressure from Lucas Fluxacross. What this is setting up, Johnny, is we're going to have this field very close together coming into this pit stop cycle.
True.
Which means we're going to get a very busy pit lane.
Yes, because effectively you've got 20 minutes to make the pit stop to ensure that there is enough race time left on the clock. And I mean, being at pit out just before the 50 minutes to go point has been reached.
Miguel Patamba in there with Nielsen Racing. Nielsen switching from the Ades chassis from last year to the Decane this year. 51 meanwhile. Now that has taken both penalties. It has taken both penalties. 3 stops against the 51. So unseen by us, it also performed its drive-through.
Just going to confirm that for a quick moment. So there was a... It's been in for a long stop, actually, Cots. Are you talking about the 51 car? Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a 23-second stop, the last stop.
Okay.
That 23 seconds is a drive-through. So the stop before that would have been the rather fluffed stop and go.
Yeah.
But still, despite that, albeit he's got to stop now for a full stop, they're in 5th place.
Well, okay. They'll take that,
Well,
sure.
I mean, that said, the car behind them, with Matteo Cressoni at the wheel, has had his big stop, if you like, and is only 2 seconds back.
Yeah.
So the reality of this is they're going to be nearly 3 minutes behind.
Because they still have to do the 2 minutes and 40-second pit stop for
Indeed.
car number 51. The race leader in GT3 up as high as 20th position now for Ray Acosta, but that car has only made hasn't made its long stop yet.
Not the race leader anymore, because they've just pitted. The 88 car from AF Corsa now leads the race. That car does need to make its full stop.
Yes. So yes, up to 20th position.
But what a good opening race so far from SMC. Locally based team. A few familiar names amongst that squad. Mark Chittenden, who was previously at, I think, Rebellion, but certainly 2Cs in the early part of that, as they're using the race tape to secure the bodywork at that front corner from the very first corner. Impact with the 51. And we're 2.5 minutes, Johnny, from halfway point at the end of the first hour. Watch here, the number 5 car and the 58 tussling away. I'm not convinced that is for position, but indeed it is not. It's the 5 car in 10th place. Isaac Parashi dealing with the GG Classics car as traffic in this instance. Waiting for time here.
Race leaders in both the RHGP cars being pitted at the same time, which might be seen as a bit risky. They'll be sharing neighbouring garages, but they clearly just want to get the stuff done as quickly as possible.
That puts the Brutal Fish by Campos car of Lucas Fluxacross into the lead at this stage. Also in the BWT Muka car. The car will need to be repositioned. 36 from Ajit Redant on pit lane. And that should be Narin Karthikeyan entering the fray, shouldn't it?
Indeed it should.
77 is out of the pits. Team go to work on the 85.
Also some people to be keeping your eye out for in GT3 include David Fumanelli, who's taken over the number 17 Ferrari. So that car is running in 2nd position now. Fumanelli in, Valentin Hasclot into the Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. And the timing screen's starting to light up now as the various silver and gold drivers take charge of their mounts for the second portion of this 2-hour race.
It's, while you're looking for that, it's a stop and go penalty for the 15 car. That's the the Vector Sport RLR car. Geronimo Gomez Atza causing a collision, and car 21 as well gets that drive through for crossing the pit exit red light that we saw earlier.
So 2 minutes and 40 seconds is the time that we need to be keeping our eyes peeled for. And 1 or 2 running it quite close, but I can't see any times that are quicker than 2 minutes and 40 seconds for these proper mandatory stops now. Everybody playing it safe because it's been such a topsy-turvy race, I suppose. You just then do not want to make a very obvious fumble in the pits to add to your woes.
Some of them are absolutely bang on. 85 rolling, the 86 should be rolling just a second or two afterwards.
As Valentin Hasclot now does the fastest GT3 lap of the race. Julien Henrion having taken over the number 98 Motorsport 98 entry. So Eric de Doncker getting out of that car and Julien Henrion in, and he's now the quickest driver so far in LMP3 Pro-Am. Very peculiar angle for LMP3 number 26.
Breton Racing.
The Dolly Jacks are able to straighten that car up, and the Breton Racing car has been brought in by Ewan Thomas. Well, he was one of the 3 to be involved in that incident at turn 5 when one car ended up in the gravel and needed outside assistance. Ewan Thomas was certainly heavily delayed during that as well.
7 cars left to make their stops. Things will settle into the rhythm we need to be watching for the end of this race.
Hayden Chance into pit lane, but plenty of others now rejoining. So Enzo Peugeot, who took the pole position earlier today for his first Michelin Le Mans Cup race, and Zach Skula also rejoining very close to him, within 3 seconds as they rejoin the race. They're down in 12th and 13th places, but remember they pitted from the lead and from second place, so in due course should be cycled back to the front.
It's an interesting moment, just looking at the running order. The McLaren, having been at the front of the field, has dropped to 5th. And whilst they were a couple of seconds slower in the pit stops than some of the other cars, not that much slower. I think they've had an incident somewhere.
Just wonder whether the lap times recently from the SMC car might open up a bit of an indication as to why that has happened. So Jean-Baptiste Simonard took over. The in-lap for Gonzalo de Andres was a little slow, but it was an in-lap at the end of the day, and it's timed to the point where they enter pit lane. What was the pit stop? Was the pit stop all right?
2:46.
Yeah, okay. So
it's 4 or 5 seconds slower than it needed to be.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, the last lap time was at 1:46.5, and everybody ahead of him is significantly quicker than that. So he has dropped time.
Okay. Well, that was his out. Well, the outlap was a 4:33 because it took account of the actual pit stop as well, and then a 1:46.5. So
Key's going to be this lap they're on now.
yeah, maybe getting the heat into the tyres that cannot be warmed before the stint.
Still waiting for the pit stop for the now lead car. Lucas Fuchs across. Counting down the number of cars that still need to pit. That number is 5 at the moment. And they're 5 of the top 6. In comes the Forestier Racing number 29.
Alessandro Cozzi finally in now for the 51 AF Corsa Ferrari's long stop. Been prevented from doing that any earlier than this, really, because of 2 separate penalties that needed to be served. One a drive-through, the other one a stop-go. And it was a stop-go where he was stopped for a little longer than he needed to before going. So a heavy delay for car 51 after it was really in the wars in the opening 20 minutes or so. 2 bits of very obvious contact from Alessandro Cozzi, both decided or both assessed as his fault. It's fairly obvious in actual fact.
Yeah, this is the period where we'll see where he really sits in the race, because this is going to drop him, as I say, over 2.5 minutes back. And I think we'll secure the fact that he's not going to be their day. Car 21, meanwhile, gets a drive-through penalty, causing a collision at turn 2. That is that Kessel car, isn't it? Now in the hands of Giacomo Altua. That's the 21 that's had the side-by-side impact with the high-class number 49. In comes the race leader.
The current race leader being Lucas Fluxer, and number 19 then pitting at the same time as Roe Meyerhaus and Christian Dannemann Jorgensen for Inter-Europol competition. Still got the time to do this. 5 more minutes to go before you need to be back out on track as the second driver to complete your 50 minutes of minimum drive time.
That means that more motorsport, car in the hands of Tim Gerhardt. The 99 car leads the race now. And up into second, Jude Peters in the Team Virage number 70. It's those two cars, the final pair that need that full stop.
Quite a bit of curb being taken there by the 85 car for Enzo Peugeot. And the chasing car's much closer, being that of Zach Skula than, for instance, Hugo Schwartz, than the sister driver, or the 85 teammate, who's not Hugo Schwarzer anymore, by the way. Daniel Frost is the name I'm fighting for. The Frost-Bula battle in the opening stint was further apart. It was more like 4 or 5 seconds by the point they pitted, but they've closed back up again. And that's got to be Zach Skula being just a tad quicker here and there, maybe through the traffic. He wasn't on the last lap around, so maybe just in the tyre heating phase, Skula did that more efficiently than Enzo Peugeot.
Further penalty coming for car 24. That's the 4th place car in LMP3 Pro-Am, Racing Spirit Le Mans. Oscar Christensen will have to come down pit lane, speeding in pit lane for that car. That will drop him behind the Rinaldi Racing number 66. In comes the race leader.
Valentin Hasclot looking for a way by David Fuminelli. I think the Aston Martin's carrying a bit more speed at this point, but this is for first and second in GT3. So Hasclot sticking to the Ferrari like glue, and Fuminelli will be well aware of Valentin Hasclot's manoeuvrability skills in that RSL, the Racing Spirit of Le Mans Aston Martin, car number 10. They are nose to tail then heading down that start-finish straight.
23 Events Racing, by the way, in 8th place at the moment, hands of Colin Queen, and puts in the fastest lap of the race, and it's significantly quicker than anybody else around. 1:38.643 at the moment, and with other cars on pit lane, that could be a significant move at this point of the race. Out comes the 19, and that is the 85. So through the pit lane cycle, that puts the Campos Racing car ahead of both RSGP cars.
And they all did the same pit stop time, 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, though, very, very wayward as the battle continues. This is how important it is to try and get ahead. You're saying can't do it because he's outside the track limit.
He can't keep that place. He's got to give the place back up.
Well, he hasn't got it yet.
He got it through off track, so he's realised that, I'm sure of it, and he's now going to have another crack. But of course, here comes the 86 car, also with the tyres up to temperature. So 85 did the right thing, then the wrong thing, then the right thing again.
Do you think he's off the hook now?
I think he's off the hook.
Got off the throttle enough.
He did.
I'm not so sure, but not our decision to make. So that could be checked from various different angles. The 86 car trying to the high side now of the number 19 of Lucas Fluxer. It's not going to be Lucas anymore, though, is it?
It's not Lucas Flux anymore. That is, but it still shows him as being the car.
Well, that's why I read his name out.
And about to lose that position, does so.
Mattis Rebar, who was so impressive
Slovakian
in qualifying
driver
earlier on. Yeah, so Rebar should have been, well, it will be him in the car. It's just that the driver ID has not been set in that direction, which might sometimes also incur the wrath of the stewards. We'll wait and see. Still no order change between first and second place cars in GT3. David Fuminelli and Valentin Hasclot.
Here comes the number 99 car, and that car has, through that exchange of pit stops, also briefly come out ahead of the RSGP cars. Now, is that simply because of the lack of traffic? But both of them on hot Michelin rubber just breeze by. Max van der Snelle it will be now, won't it? Yes, it will. Loses places 1 and 2 before he gets to corner 3.
So Enzo Peugeot through, Zach Skula through, and they do hang on to the first and the second place positions. What happened a moment or two ago between the top two in GT3, that was Valentin Hasclot pushing the envelope a little too far, dropping the left side tyres into the gravel at turn 12, but he He's not the first to have done that today, and certainly will not be the last this weekend. Fuminelli's wide. So is that deliberate to deliver the Ferrari into the apex, or can Hasklow go around the outside now of the Ferrari through turn 12? He's not going to be given the real estate. And it was brave for Valentin to put the Aston Martin there, because that was the only thing that was going to happen, I think, for Fuminelli, just to open the steering a little bit and say, no, you don't, not on this occasion. And significant ground lost. So which bit of bodywork went flying there? That was a bit of Ferrari, I think. Rear left wheel arch snapped off the car, which Fuminelli will be dearly hoping does not affect the performance of his car now. Still a long way to go. Just under 50 minutes of this race remain.
Car 17, 10-second time penalty for next pit stop, or indeed in the overall race time. Overtaking off track with a lasting advantage. That is the leader in GT3.
Okay.
So 10 seconds to be added to that will put us where? Well, that certainly dropped them back to second. Bill dropped into third.
As things stand, but of course there is the opportunity to alter the gaps between cars, but Fuminelli looks like he's only been caught and then caught a little bit more by Hasklow. He's been given some breathing space now, but only 0.4 of a second. There are late driver ID changes being made now, left, right and centre. So I noticed that Matteo Segre for 23 Events Racing is now labelled as the correct current driver, rather than Isaac Barashi. And we have had the change to Matas Rebar as well on our timing screen. So Rebar, the Slovakian racer, quite rightly labelled as the current driver for Brutal Fish by Campos in car number 19. How do his lap times compare to the top two? 142.5, that's significantly slower than both the RSGP pilots, who are on that lap alone 3 seconds faster than their near rivals. But it could have been a sticky lap for Matas Rebar because of the traffic. And the same goes for Luciano Moreno in his Forestier racing car.
Matt Bell's still being shown aboard that Nielsen racing car.
Again, shouldn't be correct, because he was down as a starting driver for car number 7 on the official documents. So
Meantime, but it's two silver drivers, isn't it, in that car?
in which car now you're talking about?
Is Matt Bell's number 7 car.
Number 7. Because Matt Bell's a gold.
The reason I say it is because that car's going very quickly right now.
Right. But it's Wyatt Bricharczyk.
Oh, well, there you go.
Wyatt Bricharczyk's pretty quick as well.
Yes, he is.
And he's not gold, but he could easily be in a few years' time. And has, I'd love to know precisely how much mileage Wyatt has done over the last few years in an LMP3 car.
He does just about everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Europe, Asia, IMSA.
Indeed so. So might be that Wyatt can start to equal the times that Matt Bell is capable of. And certainly Matt's not been able to get the hammer down as he wanted to in the opening stint. An outgoing driver leaving car 29 and heading in the direction of Steph Wentworth.
Hello everyone, I'm joined by Lucas Kluxer-Cross, driver of the number 19 Brutal Fish by Campus Racing. A really good first stint from you, super solid despite all of their intervention.
Yeah, it was a lot of safety cars, and I think we definitely had the pace when we had clean laps, but I just got stuck behind the number 86. Not much I could do, to be honest. Just try to stay behind the car and to be as close as possible for the pit stop. But yeah, did as much as I could.
Of course, and you are a Spanish driver in front of the home fans. What does it mean to you to drive here around Barcelona?
It means a lot, especially because obviously I want to be in the LMS and in hypercar soon. So yeah, it's very special to race here at home, and yeah, hopefully we're first of many in the prototypes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so a cracking opening affair for Lucas Fluxer. Fluxer is a surname we know well in LMP2 racing indeed, so following in the footsteps of his brother, Lorenzo.
Meantime, potential drama looms, Johnny. You did say that you thought, well, race control and the stewards might have their final say on that attempted overtake from the 85 car. Team manager car 85 has been called to race control. That's the only possible explanation I can come up with at the moment, is there's a question about whether or not they did enough.
Yeah. Yeah, did he back off enough and make it the end of one overtaking attempt and then the clean beginning of the next, because he did seem to carry on a bit more momentum than I was expecting into turn 5. I'm talking about Enzo Peugeot.
Also, team manager for cars 12 and 19, that's Brutal Fish by Campos. So, not sure what that is.
No.
That may well be something to do with the rules and regs and communication.
Well, we were asking the question as to why at least one of those Campos Racing cars had managed to pit with the same pit stop time, but still then get ahead of both of the RHGP cars. That was more circumstantial, I felt, at the time, but maybe they are going to investigate it. Well, of course, the car that the 85 car potentially overtook illegally, because it was done, the first bit of that move was done outside the track limits, was a 19, wasn't it? So it might be that the message mentions car 12, but it might be that car 12 has nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
Actually. And that is generally how things are spoken about in race control. You want to get the viewpoint from both sides of the argument before the stewards can then make a potential decision.
86 held up there by the dynamic Porsche for a little wee while. That's given Enzo Peugeot an opportunity to pull out a second or so on Zach Skula. Still this pair, the 17 and the 10, was welded together for the lead of GT3, but it is the 17 that's got a penalty hanging over them, isn't it?
Yes.
10 seconds.
Yes, that they then, it will be added to the end, their race time at the end of the race. And car 17, just remind myself about the recent messages, it's 10 seconds to be added to the next pit stop, but there won't be a next pit stop for overtaking off track with lasting advantage. So, many hours ago, we began the 2026 Michelin Le Mans Cup race. It wasn't hours ago, it was an hour and 17 minutes ago, but we've had an awful lot of water travelling under the bridge, and much of it rather muddied, it has to be said. Lena Bula was having her ears boxed in the early stages by the two Campos cars, and then the Brutal Fish Campos cars made contact with one another, resulting in a spin for the 4th place car. And talk about the cat being thrown amongst the pigeons, then hard into the wall for one of those cars, as we remarked at the time, but terrific avoiding driving. Yes, many having to take to the gravel trap and doing damage that way, but it could have been an awful lot worse to have a car spinning in 4th position, and also the GTs, sort of unconnected to that, were having their own moment. Sadly, the number 20 car for high-class racing was the one that hit the wall solidly. Then a rather daft manoeuvre from Alessandro Cozzi, because the door was not open on the Code Racing development Aston Martin. Just a nibble on the rear right, that spun the Aston and left them both in the gravel. And this was a bit hot-headed as well for car number 15 down the inside to create a 3-car incident. But actually the car most hard done to was that number 15 Vector Sport RLR car, which could not leave the scene without some outside assistance. Then a clumsy moment between a GT and an LMP3 car, the 21 of Kessel Racing car that was started by Oscar Rincevic. McLaren therefore cycled to the head of the order, because after that contact between the 51 Ferrari and the 11 Aston Martin, the McLaren found its way to the front after a very good opening stint actually for the starting driver of car number 77, Gonzalo De Andres. Ferraris scrapping amongst themselves in behind the McLaren. And then there were several place changes all on the same lap, including for an already damaged McLaren. It would be jumped by 2 Ferraris. Meanwhile, RHGP having an okay race at this point, as in they were 1st and 2nd, but then they rejoined in something like 9th and 10th. And we're wondering whether that 85 car down the inside at turn 5 was done legally, because a few corners before the 85 was beyond the track limits, and something about the 85 car is now being investigated. It could very easily be that. This was a bit of contact in the exit zone of turn 12 for Valentin Haas-Clos, who put his Aston Martin to the high side of David Fumanelli. And as we enter the final 40 minutes of the opener for the 2026 Michelin Le Mans Cup, after 36 laps, it is currently an R-Race GP 1-2. Enzo Peugeot and Zach Scular are the second drivers to go into those Ducanes, ahead of Matus Rebar. Although, having said that, the latest run shows that Luciano Morano has got ahead of Rebar, therefore. So that only done in the last few seconds to correct our current graphic. Max van der Snel is running in 5th. In LMP3, the race leader is Leo Robinson for Breton Racing in car number 62, ahead of Felipe Fernandez Larza for Rinaldi Racing in number 71, and Rashid Shawn for Inter-Europol competition. And then in GT3, David Fumanelli, Valentin Haas-Clos and Matteo Crisoni for Kessel Racing, Racing Spirit of Le Mans and Dynamic GT. 3 different manufacturers, Ferrari, Aston and Porsche, yes.
In fact, there's 4 in the top 4 with McLaren falling back. Jean-Baptiste Simonard does not seem to be able to keep the pace of the leading pack in that McLaren in this phase of the race. But it is 1, 2, 3, 4 with 4 different cars. Kessel Racing, the Ferrari, Racing Spirit Le Mans with their Aston Martin, Dynamic and Porsche, and SMC with the McLaren. So 38 minutes to go. At the moment, it looks like R-Race GP are basically picking up the baton from last year, where they dominated. 1-2, can do no better than that. Car number 7, meanwhile, that is Nielsen Racing. Still says it's Matt Bell aboard that car, which it can't be. They're sitting at 8th, but under investigation for track limits. And a drive-through penalty comes immediately for that matter. The 7 will drop back again. So no shortage of action in this phase of the race, of the more welcome sort. Watching here, this is the lead battle of GT in amongst this little lot. The Ferrari just going through the right-hander now, under pressure from an LMP3 car behind, and those nose-to-tail shenanigans have left the Ferrari with a bit of a comfortable lead, but watching Matteo Crisoni right with Valentin Haas-Clos. This is a battle for second place now.
Yeah, so Haas-Clos has faded a tad, 1.6 seconds adrift of the race-leading David Fumanelli when he was right with him not that long ago. And now on the boot lid, Matteo Crisoni. So establishing himself in the dynamic GT field and awning, if you like, for this year.
And by the way, going through on the GT3 leader, this is the battle for the overall 3rd place between the 29 and the 19. Luciano Morano has passed Matus Rebar, as you said a little earlier, Johnny, but has not dropped him.
Now that happened almost as I was giving you the update after the first hour, and it took us a bit of time to get to that update because plenty of things happening. And yes, Morano versus Rebar not finished, and if they continue to fight amongst themselves, that might give Max van der Snel a sniff as well in car number 99. Did we decide that it's not Max van der Snel anymore?
It is Max van der Snel.
Fine,
yeah,
okay.
It's no longer a dad and lad effort, is it? It's the son of the father that is back, and Max is on the last lap with traffic for the cars ahead of him, was 3 seconds quicker, and he's just 4 seconds back now.
I just wanted to make sure that Tim Gerhardt was down as the starting driver, which he indeed was for More Motorsport, so that's been corrected as well. Sorry, there have been 1 or 2 floating around of just erroneous driver ID.
Through the pit stop cycle, he led the race.
Yes, and that was Max as well.
Just
They
see,
did correct their driver ID at the right point.
the More Motorsport car just behind, and by the way, under pressure for the 23 events number 50, that car in this mix as well. There they are, just behind the Porsche. And through this phase, the Aston's catching the Ferrari again.
Yeah, just 2 laps later, after we said that Fumanelli was starting to drop Haas-Clos, Aston coming back into its own again. Lock up though, that's now going to compromise Crisoni's Porsche a little bit, as some LMP3s want to get by.
That is the battle for 5th position. Max van der Snel trying to fend off Colin Queen, and they're both trying to get onto terms with Matus Rebar. who is 5 seconds ahead of that pair. And now Hazard is looking to see what he can do about getting by on the road. Still these LMP3s making life tricky for this battle to go on ahead.
Well, this is going to mean it's rather more compromise for the GT drivers, and Fuminelli needing to be wary of where Max van der Snel is going to go next. Meanwhile, Max van der Snel doesn't want to leave himself exposed to Colin Queen in the 23 events car, the red, white and black LMP3 car. So this is terrific stuff. You're having to fully concentrate on two totally different but intense battles, and there is a wry smile there from Valentin Haslow's teammate Philippe Saga, who began an hour and a bit ago in this number 10 car. And a few seconds ago, a lock-up for, well, the two CLX cars are running together. That's
yep.
Alexander Jacobi and David Drew, another one of the golds in the entry.
The 87 is, by the look of it, missing its left-hand legality panel.
Yeah, I spotted that as well, and it's been ripped asunder. It's not as if it's hanging on by a thread, as we so often see. Van der Snel now to the inside of David Fuminelli's Ferrari, but he's going to be followed every which way by Colin Queen. And can Queen be even later on the brakes? Probably not than Max van der Snel, who's driven for a couple of years now with his father, but going instead now partnering with Tim Gerhardt in the more motorsport car, number 99, which started the race in 10th and now sniffing around a 5th place finish at the very least. Mattis Rebar is a bit too far up the road if Max van der Snel can check out from Colin Queen, but that's far more easily said than done.
So, yes, another LMP3 car in the middle of this battle, but Valentin Haslov, I think, can see there's an opportunity here. Car 51, by the way, now in the hands of Alicia Dono, under investigation for a full course yellow infringement. And as we were saying, there was damage to the left rear of the 87. Hearing from Steph Wentworth, and we can see on one of our remote cameras that that car is on pit lane for repair.
That rather suggests the damage is quite fresh, therefore, unless he's got the call from the team manager to say, well, we can solve it now quite quickly because we've got all the necessary bits present at the front of the garage. That's Vic Stevens in the Team Virage LMP3 car. Vic, a name known in the Ligier European Series, having run in Team Virage colours in JSP4. So hopefully you've been following the Ligiers as well with Graham and I on commentary.
If not, we'll have excuses in writing, please.
I think that's quite right too, yes. Send the postcard in for your reasons, please, and we'll have you writing lines by the end of today. But Stevens is causing a problem. Could this be a lead change, therefore, for Valentin Haslov? Can he get the car stopped in time? Fuminelli's going to fight back on the high side. The track does turn right next, but he can't get the Ferrari overlapping the Aston Martin. Vic Stevens needs to be careful not to pile in the back of Fuminelli at the same rate. And let's not discount the 54 Porsche of Matteo Cressoni either, who could also benefit a place. But Fuminelli's actually coped with that quite well. I've got to say, Valentin Haslov's been thinking about that overtake for probably the last 5 or 6 laps and finally does get it done. Dynamic, again, loitering with intent on the outside of turn 5. The exit speed for Fuminelli is sufficient enough to stay ahead of Matteo Cressoni, but that peaked rather nicely there late on the break. Isn't it great to see a GT car totally on the limit there, but still kept it within the confines of the track. Fair play to Valentin, and that is what it means to racing spirit of Le Mans and Philippe Saga.
Meantime, with the Ferrari still under pressure from the Porsche, still more LMP3s in the mix here, and every one of them offers us an opportunity. Up the inside goes Cressoni, and I think he's got it. Not this time, maybe not. Looking for the way by, as Haslov was for lap after lap. It's almost like he's pressed the reset button. Okay, back into battle mode. Ten seconds added to the number 51 for that full course yellow infringement. Barely matters at the moment. Just looking to see whether or not he's under any threat from behind. He is not.
So Alexander Alexander Jacobi's just been in the pits to do a long stop, it would appear, and gone back out.
That's
again.
the rear left issue.
Fine.
Next car.
But just coincidentally, it's reads as a 2 minutes and 40 pit stop, which is, of course, the prescribed time on the mandatory stop, but he's already done that. Here's a slow number 12 car then, heading down the hill for Artur Rojan and the Brutal Fish Campos car, but not the stronger placed machine. This is the one that's been in real strife, down in 20th position for Artur.
But there's potential drama again for a leading GT car, because this time it's the 10, the leading Aston Martin, under investigation, full course yellow infringement. Now, at this point, if he gets the same penalty as we believe has gone to the 17, that's a win for the dynamic Porsche.
Yeah, just needs to keep it going in that camp then for Dynamic GT. Make sure that you keep clear of any penalties, and within touching distance of this car. Unfortunately, Artur Rojan's not going to go any further though in car number 12, and makes a quick exit out of your vision. The car being brought in, and they are going to write the rest of this evening off, sadly. Just gone 10-8 at night here in Barcelona. You wouldn't necessarily know that from our great camera coverage, picking out the cars crystal clear fashion. And there is the Ferrari of David Fuminelli, at the moment second on the road, ahead of Matteo Cressoni's black and white Porsche. And now under pressure, the number 8 LMP3 car of Matis Plushkel for BWT Muka Motorsport. And around the outside,
David Drew
position.
It was David Drew in the number 97 CLX cars taking that position.
Yeah, it did actually look, you could almost tell it was David Drew, even without, I knew that it was in the car, but the body language was very much of Drew's forte from the past.
So in GT, just to explain the current situation, race is led by the number 10 Racing Spirit Le Mans Aston Martin and Valentina Haase-Clos, but is under investigation for full course yellow infringement. Second on the road is the Kessel Racing number 17. That car is now 3.8 seconds back from the Aston Martin, but has got a penalty looming of 10 seconds to be added for a full course yellow infringement. Third, Matteo Cressoni, who's within tenths of the number 54 of the number 17 car, is running without penalty. So if we add the 10 seconds, that will mean that the Kessel Racing car drops to third place. If Racing Spirit Le Mans get a 10-second penalty, they would drop to second, shuffling Kessel down to third, and the Porsche would win the race.
Yeah.
Almost amazingly, Alessio Dono is now on a warning flag for track limits. Is that the 5th penalty potentially coming if he does it again?
Well, he's up to his limit, so generally speaking, yes. We're hearing that the number 12 Campos car could go no further because it was stuck in gear. So despite the best efforts from Artur Rojan, there's not a lot you can do there, hence why he bailed. Cressoni caught on the wrong side briefly there of the number 9 car, was that? 9 of Louis Iglesias.
And there was contact there with the Ferrari as the LMP3 car came through. That's for position as well, isn't it? It is for position. It's a recovering LMP3 car.
So the next question is, how far up the road can Valentin Haase-Clos get in order to negate his... Well, we don't know the penalty yet.
We do now, because it's just come up 10 seconds.
Right.
So Valentina Haase-Clos, as things stand right now, is 5.3 seconds clear of Kessel Racing and 5.5 clear of the dynamic car. So he needs to find another 5 seconds.
Yeah.
If he does, there'll be no drop of position. He would retain the win.
Indeed. That's tough to do at this stage, but he's got enough time potentially in the bag to do it. Way out wide there, coming out of turn 14, is one of the LMP3 Pro-Am cars.
That will be the Ajit Kumar car.
16. that fit. Car number 16 is Roman Wozniak, indeed, driving the Agit Red Ant by Virage.
And also wide, the leader.
Okay, good spot, because I had thought that was just going to be a straight replay of a car running wide, but now what lap was that? Certainly not the lap that Enzo Peugeot has just completed, because at 141.6 is absolutely fine.
Colin Queen there up the inside and ahead of the more motorsport car of Max van der Snel, and here still battling away. This will be Cressoni being told, I'm sure, by the team that at the moment there is a win in prospect, but he needs now to pass the Ferrari, because the rate of escape of Valentino Haas-Clos is putting that in doubt.
Yeah,
he has to pass the Ferrari.
That's what I wondered. And the problem is that Cressoni's going to find it pretty difficult. He's trying to throw Fuminelli, the dummy, get the Ferrari on the wrong bit of the track and then dive bomb it, but couldn't do it into turn number 5. And still that gap now with Valentin Haas-Clos, of course, with nobody really around him. Yes, he's having to deal with the odd bit of recovering LMP3 traffic, notably Louis Iglesias, who's right on the tail now of the Frenchman. But Haas-Clos could very easily check out from these two cars to the tune of 10 seconds and still win the race, even when that penalty is issued at the end of it.
Well, Haas-Clos, just as the NS car went through, that's cost him a little bit of time. 4.4 seconds clear now. It was 5.2, but he's now back in clear air, and there is no traffic troubling him. They won't also trouble the cars behind him.
Yeah.
So it's all about now, what pace has Valentino Haas-Clos got? Can the 54 car get by the 17? If he can, I think this is in Dynamics' hands.
Another car under investigation for track limits is the 26 Breton Racing
car. Breton Racing car. It's a car that's had some troubles today.
That is
18th in the hands of Christian Brooks, 18th in LMP3, 23rd overall.
Still remember the 85 car, or at least the team manager, was summoned to race control a good while ago now, as was the team manager for car number 19. And it was those two cars, remember. Does Cressoni think about a move here? No, he's not quite close enough. But it was those two cars, the RHGP 85 and the Brutal Fish by Campos number 19, that were both involved in that potential overtake. Well, it was an overtake, but was it affected by the 85 running off the track at turn 3 and shallowing the right-hander at turn 3, i.e. carrying more speed out of it and making the overtake possible? That's still going to have to be checked somehow.
Indeed. As things stand again, this race would be won. The checkered flag came out now by this car, running third on the track, but with both cars ahead of it, with 10-second penalties to add.
Meantime, the 62 car of Leo Robinson, the other Breton Racing 62, I think is in the clear regarding any potential penalties. I don't remember that car
I think he's fine.
getting any messages. It's got a very clean record, actually. They made their pit stop. Jacek Zilonta got out. Leo Robinson got in. They did a 2 minutes and 44 second pit stop. 2:43, 2:44, but that's fine.
The one to watch in LMP3 Pro-Am, as we see yet another attempt spooking David Fuminelli. Doesn't often work. Is the car in 5th place, far the quickest at the moment on track in LMP3 Pro-Am. It's Guillaume Henrion, and he is under a second back from 4th. And how far from the lead? 6 or 7 seconds.
Now, could this next wave of quick LMP3 cars be the undoing of David Fuminelli, if you like? Because all it will take is one LMP3 to crack open the door. But the problem now is that Cressoni's not quite close enough. He's got on the wrong side of all of this traffic. So this is going to drive a wedge between the second-placed Ferrari and the third-placed white-black GT Porsche, dynamic GT Porsche. 10-second time penalty this time.
No, we got that already.
Car 10, you've already read that out,
Yep.
fine. Sorry, the graphics are slightly delayed compared to our actual timing screen.
And that is the number 10. It sets the scene for what we've got here. And again, at this phase, with the LMP3s harassing the GT3s, this allows Hazard-Clos to extend his gap. But then he's got to deal with it.
Yeah. So,
oof, moment there for the LMP3 leading the van. This has dropped the Porsche right off the back of this Ferrari.
the gap for Valentin Hazard-Clos to Fuminelli remains nearly 6 seconds.
Yeah.
But he needs 10 over Fuminelli to hang on to his race win that he could potentially share.
No, he doesn't. He needs 10. He needs 10 over Matteo Cressoni.
Because of Fuminelli's penalty as well. Understood.
And that's the point here. With that delay for the Porsche, the gap to Cressoni is now up to 8.7 seconds. That's getting perilously close to the bogey time.
Yeah, but like you say, how badly delayed will Hazard-Clos then be when he is caught by, was it 4 or 5 LMP3 cars?
5 of them.
So they are about to pour out of turn 5 now. Hot pursuit.
You'd like to think
10.
If you can have the opportunity to do it, just lift off a little on the start-finish straight and let them all blow by. But can he hold them off for that long? I don't think he can. And, the slight problem for Hazard-Clos is that Fuminelli has split that pack, so it's not 1 pack anymore, it's 2.
Yes. Out of turn 10 goes Hazard-Clos. Meanwhile, other scraps to look out for, perhaps in LMP3 Pro-Am. Are the podium positions safe? Well, Sean Rashid sits in 3rd for Inter-Europol competition, but he has got Mikel Garda-Pedersen for company.
And behind him, Guillaume Omrion, that is a 3-car battle. The answer is no, that's not safe.
So
this is the battle. This is exactly that battle. This is the Inter-Europol car being caught here by the Rinaldi car, which is in turn being caught by the Motorsport 98 car.
Yeah.
Cracking little.
And that's the real pincer movement, isn't it? Gillian Omrion, with all his LMP3 experience, all the championships he's won at still a young age, as they head out of turns 7 and 8, which is still littered by rather large chunks of debris, including at least one of the cheese wedges, I think, which has found its way offline, thankfully there. Enzo Peugeot leading overall in the quickest LMP3 division, i.e. silver-silver or silver-gold combinations, and 7 seconds now is the leading margin for Enzo Peugeot over Zach Scoulart.
And for the first time, the gap between the top 3 swings the way of the Aston Martin. Over 10 seconds to the 3rd place car.
But how close are those cars? Well, they're starting to spread out, so that's better news now for Valentin Hazard-Clos. The number 7 car will be the first to catch, Wyatt Brinkacek, and Brinkacek is well, very efficient with traffic. Don't think there's been the place change there though. No, Brinkacek's transponder is playing up a little bit, so having to be fed in manually, but he's still ahead of car number 5 for Matteo Segre, or kind of there or thereabouts at least, and they will gang up on car number 10, Valentin Hazard-Clos Aston Martin, in the near future. If they're not on the next lap, then the one after that. But now the chasing Matteo Cressoni is desperately hoping that Aston Martin is slowed down just a little bit to keep it within 10 seconds of, as a leading margin for the Aston Martin over the 3rd placed Dynamic GT Porsche, because remember, Fuminelli, who runs 2nd, will also get a 10-second penalty at the end of this race.
Yeah, and that gap is still going out. Right now, Valentin Hazard-Clos is doing exactly what he has to do. Clean race, clean lines, extend the gap to the GT cars behind that are still in LMP3 traffic, by the way. It's a black and orange flag for the number 87. That is the 2nd of the CLX Motorsport cars, Alex Jacobi. That, I think, will be for a failed repair on that left-hand cheese wedge. And car 51, meanwhile, does get drive-through for track limits.
Lock up
this time, yeah, Rinaldi.
Rinaldi in the that was actually the Sean Rashid car, wasn't it? 34, having a lock-up,
It
I
was,
thought.
but Rinaldi making the pass, and here comes Gillian Omrion as well. He gets through too. So both of them make the move on the interior pole car. Rinaldi moving up into a podium position in the hands of Michael Gardner-Pedersen. Gillian Omrion up into fourth.
And that all stemmed from the pressure that had been really telling on Sean Rashid, just the mere presence of those two cars, and that slight lock-up into turn 5 presented the opportunity. And now Gillian Omrion just that little bit cleaner into turn 12. So he's on the boot lid of Michael Pedersen. Pedersen wants to try and get into a bit more of a groove now, having dispatched Sean Rashid. Will he be allowed to do that by Gillian Omrion?
This is about points, it's about a podium. It's about coming away from this first round with the best you can get from what's been a tricky day for everyone. Still in close contention, putting back onto the boot lid of David Fumanelli. "14 minutes to go." There is time, if he's got the pace in the car, if Cressoni can get by the Ferrari, to reel in that time difference for the Aston Martin ahead. But at the moment, it's going in the wrong direction.
I just fear that even if Cressoni were to get ahead of Fumanelli, would Cressoni have the speed in that Porsche to get close enough to Valentin Hasklow?
He needs 2 seconds.
I know, and it doesn't sound a lot, but to be honest, that gap's only going in one direction. It might well slow up a little bit. It'll stem the tide, because Hasklow is going to have to be mindful of 2 LMP3 cars on his tail now. And the 87 car still has not had the full repair, so in the sense that the legality panel, the cheese wedge, is no longer present on car 87, and they've obviously been trying to hunt around for any spares, but maybe there's nothing to attach it to now.
That's been the problem often in the past, hasn't it?
So that's the back of the CLX 87 car in the pits again for Alexander Jacobi. Meanwhile, David Drew's going a lot stronger in the sister CLX car, 8th position now for Drew.
This is the battle, by the way, for 3rd overall, headed up by Luciano Morano in that 29 car. He's 2.5 seconds back from the second of the 2 RSGP cars, but being closed by Matthias Rieber in the number 19 Brutal Fish car. And right there is the 23 events car of Colin Queen.
Whole load of cars, 5 of them in total, with the necessity for headlights at this time of night.
These 3, though, it's the green, the white and the red car are the ones in contention for the final podium position. And right now it looks to me like Matthias Rieber wants it. Up the inside, though, comes the 23 events car. Can he make that count? Could be that the 29 is blocked up behind the GT3 car and gets through. Takes 2 positions in 2 corners.
Terrific opportunist overtaking from Colin Queen. 3rd place late in the piece for 23 events racing. They've already had a decent day with their young Danish superstar in the Ligier European Series, Marcus Terkelsen. And 23 events racing looking to try and get another podium today. Well, Rieber threaded his way by Morano in that same manoeuvre as well. So Forestier by VPS were the big losers, actually, out-muscled to a certain extent.
But watch this. It's side by side in contact between those 2. The green car gets slightly bottled up by the McLaren. By that point, he's already got the 23 events car up the inside, and that move was done, beautifully done by Colin Queen, and he's pulled away from this pair.
I think the game plan really from Luciano Morano was to just open the steering a little bit and prevent Matthias Rieber from overtaking him around the outside. What he hadn't counted on was Colin Queen keeping the line far, far tighter than any of them and darting down the inside. So, meanwhile, the Valentin Hasklow, David Fumanelli and Matteo Cressoni scrap continues on. You look, I know what you're searching for here. Are you unsure whether that actually was Antonio Garcia?
I'm pretty certain that was Antonio Garcia.
Well, we are in Spain, after all. Corvette racing driver. Very smiley, unless he's behind the wheel of a Corvette. And what you're trying to find out now is whether he has any interest in Campbell's racing. Yeah, well, it definitely was him.
100% was
You sort of pointed at him, and then you didn't say anything, and I thought, I'm not so sure now either.
Well, it has to be said, you know, a glittering array of people spotted in pit lane this weekend.
Absolutely. Ones that we didn't expect. I mean, there were the ones on the entry list and those associated with teams.
Nico Veroni.
Yeah.
All sorts of talent around. Patrick Pilet here in his usual role with the Porsche Carrera Cup France. Good to see them.
Enzo Peugeot now has a 10.5 second lead.
It's been a remarkable race from him.
Over Zach Scular, and I say that because still the 85 car is we don't know whether it's under investigation, but the race director wanted to speak to the team manager of car 85, and if there is a penalty in the pipeline and it's 10 seconds,
he's still clear.
Enzo Peugeot is clear, much like Valentin Hasclot,
who is still pulling away.
Yeah. He now has a 14-second gap, nearly 15-second gap over David Fuminelli. Matteo Cressoni's back with Fuminelli, by the way, and there is the evidence of it. Ferrari just ahead of Porsche.
But yet again, LMP3 cars around, and now being caught by the battle for third in LMP3 because Guillaume Henrion has caught Felipe Fernandez-Larza. And that is now a battle for the final podium position. In fact, the three cars we saw battling away for fourth are still battling away for fourth, but they've caught the third place car. So Cressoni will be mightily frustrated by this, I'm sure, but is this an opportunity with these battling GT cars for Henrion to get stuck in here and claim a podium?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time he's tried that little trick, leaving it very, very late. But all of the seconds in this race count, and very often Julien Henrion is the expert of playing the long game and being the most awake at the end of a 2-hour or indeed a 4-hour race.
8 minutes to go, and we're running out of time and laps for that to happen. Should be said though, Henrion still under massive pressure from Rashid Shawn for his fourth place. So is it going to be third, fourth, fifth?
By the way, the names are the wrong way around on the time. It is Sean Rashid.
It is. They keep doing that, don't they?
I know, but it's weird because on the initial entry list they did have it the right way round, but it's ended up on the timing screen not correct. Now, here's the 34 car under stern pressure once again from Julien Henrion.
The other way round. It was 34 that's passed him.
Okay, Moreno.
Watch this here as he comes through here. He's ahead of the 34 on the curb. A little bit of a brush side by side. That's enough to push the Motorsport 98 car to the side and through.
Sean Rashid back ahead of Julien Henrion. I wasn't expecting that manoeuvre, I have to say, because it did appear that Rashid was just kind of going further and further back, but an excellent route through.
Question is there a problem now for Guillaume Henrion? He's under pressure again from Oscar Christensen.
Yeah.
And stands to lose another place here, and I think he is going to lose another place.
Sector times are not good.
So something's gone on here. Is he overcooked the tyres? He's got a problem inside the car. But look at the gap to the Inter-Europol car. Still trying to get onto terms with this Ferrari. Matteo Cressoni.
Still no way through as they both allow the 71 of Felipe Fernandez-Larza by. So two Rinaldi racing cars on course for a podium finish. Neither are going to win the race because of this dominant performance now from Leo Robinson in car number 62 for Breton Racing. Leo Robinson and Jacek Zilonka, who did the opening stint.
That Porsche just does not seem to have the bite, does it? It just doesn't seem to have that final 0.5% of pace or grip to allow it to actually even take the risk.
Is that a quirk of just how the balance of performance is operating around this Barcelona circuit? It's finding time, clearly, here and there, but at the crucial point when the Porsche is close enough to the Ferrari, just doesn't have the drive off the slower speed corners, maybe. Now way over to the right-hand side is
This is a battle for position. This is for
Louis
fifth.
Hamilton Smith, is this in the 24?
No,
It's Oscar Christensen, rather, in 24, Racing Spirit of Le Mans, and he's going to make the place on Sean Rashid. Although Rashid's going to attempt to fight back, no, can't get through. Now, how high up can the 24 car get? Felipe Fernandez Larza is kind of within touching distance.
But he needs to clear this traffic first, and we're running out of time. 5 minutes to go. I think there might just be enough room for the Rinaldi man to complete the podium run here.
And in actual fact, Jules Caranta sits in Oscar Christensen's way in the Duquesne from Nielsen Racing. So that Duquesne is definitely there in position, fighting for position, but not in the same subcategory in LMP3.
Cressoni right there now, by the way.
Yeah, so Cressoni and the Porsche, not for the first time, on the bootleg of David Fuminelli's Ferrari number 17. Gap second to third might be getting a bit tasty. Colin Queen hasn't necessarily given up closing that 9/10 of a second, but last time around, well, he was half a second quicker than Zach Skula. Got to find a way by as well in just 4 minutes of the race remaining. But Colin Queen, his charge by Luciano Morano and Matthias Rebar just 5 or 6 laps ago was so impressive.
I think he may have been alongside.
He's right with him,
guy.
actually.
I think I was alongside when we got that shot.
He's right with
He's got him. It's got him. He's up into second place. That's some run from Colin Queen.
So it became, well, the last time I checked on the graphics, half a second, then all of a sudden that was 0.0 something, and to the high side. Does he keep it within the track limits? He was straddling the white line, but that's okay. And in the end, Zach Skula couldn't hold him back.
Still, Matteo Cressoni trying to push hard on David Fuminelli, but yet again, there's an LMP3 car foiling the battle. This is, I think, as close as it got here. Briefly ahead, but couldn't hold it through turn 1.
Yeah, just ran a bit too far wide and should really be taken to the escape road there, Matteo Cressoni.
Well, he'll not want to make that mistake because that would be throwing away a certain second place at this point.
He will argue that he was far enough around the corner as he left the road rather than fully overcooking the route into turn 1. But again, that is down to the race director's discretion. He may well pass that to the stewards for a decision from them instead.
Keeping on other battles here, by the way, closing the 4th placed SMC McLaren quickly is Marco Bononomi in the 88 AF Corsa Ferrari. He's catching at the tune of 2 seconds a lap or so, but we're running out of time.
To a certain degree, Gillian Henrion is back on it again now. There was a little bit of smoke coming from the rear of his car as he was braking very late indeed into turn 10. So might be able to match the pace of Sean Rashid, but Henrion wanted to stay with people like Oscar Christensen and Felipe Fernandez Larza to try and get on the podium.
Christensen, by the way, is within a second of a podium place, but with a car between him and the current holder of that position. This is the 19 car.
So 19 and 9 exchanging paintwork.
But 9 is a lapped car.
Okay, so that's Louis Iglesias, not involved on the lead lap.
This is the 85. The race leader has just gone by Gillian Henrion. We're under a minute and a half to go, so this is going to be the penultimate lap.
There are the category leaders at the bottom of your screen. So Valentin Hasclot continuing to lead Racing Spirit of Le Mans, and despite this 10-second penalty which will be thrown his way at flagfall, he's got more than enough in the back pocket. Leo Robinson for 62 Breton Racing, the car that he shares with Jacek Zielonka, on course for an opening race victory. And Enzo Peugeot on lap 60 has over a 12-second lead in car number 85, he and Daniel Frost. Frost needed to keep the car at the sharp end, but really struggled to open up any sort of an advantage because of the truncated nature of the opening hour of this race. But we got there eventually We've had some significant clean running since then. Still the odd bit of contact here and there, which has left a bit of debris on awkward bits of the racetrack. Now the race leader right in behind Matteo Crissoni, and will be able to overtake, I'm sure, this Porsche probably into turn 1 or just before it. Getting a good run. The straight line speed from that dynamic GT Porsche is very impressive indeed, as the front discs glow hot. And actually there was no chance for Enzo Peugeot to clear the Porsche before the first corner of this now final lap. So the 85 car leads by 10 and a bit seconds, 10.2. Colin Queen, we've mentioned, going into second place, getting ahead of Zach Schuler. He did that relatively easily.
Oscar Christensen through into third place in LMP3 Pro-Am. So has caught and passed Felipe Fernandez-Larza on the penultimate lap. Big lock-up from the 34 car there.
So yeah, late in the day, and we did mention that might be a possibility. The Racing Spirit of Le Mans car of Oscar Christensen up a spot. He was only 0.04 of a second ahead of Felipe Fernandez-Larza though, so we'll keep our eyes peeled as to whether they are still in that order through the next split. Way up the curve for race leader Enzo Peugeot.
The answer is he is not. Fernandez-Larza back ahead.
I did wonder whether that might be nip and tuck with only 0.040 of a second between them, but they are quite probably still side by side to decide the final step of the podium in LMP3 Pro-Am. Despite the faint storm cloud above car 85 for Enzo Peugeot and his teammate Daniel Frost. We haven't heard any more about the overtake that he performed earlier on in the race, so let's forget it for the time being.
Oh!
Big off in the background for Fuminelli and his Ferrari, I think, but the race win will go to RHGP, continuing their form from 2025. It's a dramatic finish for sure, though, as now we wait for Colin Queen to cross the line for 23 events, racing car number 50, and Zach Schuler gets a second RHGP car onto the podium. And quite what happened in the background there for the Kessel Racing Ferrari. We shall try and unpick that in the next few minutes, but let's make sure the other category winners are called home safely. Matteo Crissoni for Dynamic GT does finish second. Valentin Hasklow is actually going to be a lap clear of him by the end of this race, because of the race leader at the time getting in front of Matteo Crissoni's Dynamic GT Porsche. And the LMP3 Pro-Am leaders are just heading now towards turn 10.
The Racing Spirit Le Mans Oscar Christensen has again passed Felipe Fernandez-Larza to get to a podium spot, but this is the GT leader. 10-second penalty to come, but it won't be enough to lose them a place here.
And actually just ahead of him on the road is the 62 car, according to our tracker. There it is. So it will be the LMP3 Pro-Am leader, Leo Robinson, for Breton Racing to take the first win of the year in Pro-Am with Jacek Zielonka of Poland. Leo Robinson, the Algerian UK dual nationality race driver with lots of success in the past as well, and great to have Leo as part of the championship for 2026. So he takes the race victory in Pro-Am, and to confirm, Valentin Hasklow takes the win on the road in Aston Martin number 10 for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And after the penalty was issued,
the penalty's not yet been
issued,
but what that
but once
also
it is issued, it won't change the result.
What it also means, with the 17 being off track and unable to complete the race, is the McLaren gets the podium. The 77 car, SMC Motorsport, they recover a podium from what was a bit of a topsy-turvy race for them, their first race in this championship, but nothing taking away from what was a dominant performance again from RHGP and their new look squad, the 85 car. They finished that race 8 seconds clear.
Wasn't quite the perfect result. Zach Schuler's car either was fading or it was just a blistering drive from Colin Queen to solidify second position in car number 50. But Colin Queen, together with his silver co-driver Giovanni Mascio, coming home to take second position.
Would say, by the way, there was a warning on track limits for Zach Schuler right at the end. I think there was contact there.
Well, that is the other concern for Matteo Crissoni. now the penalty is issued for, well, everybody post-race, for anyone that had a penalty hanging over them. And Valentin Haas-Close victory, still a provisional victory at this stage, but that is confirmed.
Well, shown as a lap now because of the way the car's finished.
Yeah.
But it was about 13 seconds. Jean-Baptiste Simonal, meanwhile, 49 seconds back in third. If there was contact and there was a penalty, it's not going to be 49 seconds.
Indeed so. So that is going to have to be investigated post-race. It's a highly unusual mistake that may have been made by David Fuminelli. So I'd rather head towards your theory that there was some contact just out of frame.
Incident involving cars 54 and 17 at T14 under investigation, causing a collision.
So well, there you go. That doesn't, again, confirm that there was contact, but nearly always that is the case. If something like that has to be under investigation, there was obviously some sort of tap, spin, off-track moment for David Fuminelli, and leaving the scene at high speed. I'm delighted to see that the confines of the track kept him contained within them, but that will be scant consolation for Fuminelli and the Kessel Racing crew, car number 17. The flip side, though, we'll see the celebrations beginning at RHGP. And Enzo Peugeot has put himself front and centre now as the new wave of RHGP's discoveries. Where do they keep finding them all from, I wonder? Peugeot definitely the quicker of the two, but to be honest, not too shabby at all from Daniel Frost either, who began the stint at began his stint at 6:20 this afternoon. And this is what it means to so many of the crews, drivers, personnel, up and down the order. It's a late Saturday evening here in Barcelona, but persistence is key.
That drive back to the front from the 23 Events Racing team. And as you'll see from the markings on the race suits here, this is a team aligned with AF Corsa. This means a lot in terms of a young driver's pathway up and through the sport, because there's a lot of very influential people watching these young talents through 23 Events Racing.
Yeah.
The most disappointed team, I think, will be Brutal Fish by Campus. It sort of went wrong in turn 2 for them, but they should be pretty proud of a 4th place finish here on their debut. I doubt that's the way they're looking at it this evening. And confirmation, by the way, from none other than Oliver Gavin. Remember him?
Not really, no.
He used to be quite big.
Okay.
Yeah, still quite big, if you know what I mean.
Literally quite big.
It does say that it was indeed Antonio Garcia, integral to the Campus programme and team. I think that shows jealousy on the part of the man Gavin. But Antonio Garcia, what a star he is, still in the orbit of Corvette racing in the States, and great to hear that he's got such potential for something in the future on another side of the sport.
Very smart helmet design for Leo Robinson, I notice, and a big grin that you can't see, but from the eyes, it's definitely there. Leo Robinson taking finally a breather, because although it seems relatively easy on the timing screen, there was certainly massive pressure being provided by Mikkel Pedersen and by Oscar Christensen, actually, later on in the piece. But Christensen did get the final step of the podium in car number 24 in that hunt for podium honours versus Felipe Fernandez-Larza with Christian Gysi. But reaction for the winners now. Here's Steph.
Yes, I am joined by the winners of this race. A huge congratulations to the number 85 RHGP. It was quite a dominant performance from both of you.
Yeah, thank you. It was quite a good race. Daniel finished in P1 the first stint, and I just had to bring the car home. So yeah, very good job from the team and from Daniel also.
The first stint was tricky, broken up by a lot of interventions, but you finally got to race at the end and managed to keep hold of that first position.
Yeah, coming down to turn 1, had to make sure it was clean. No one got by us, and then we controlled it. Safety car came out straight away, and then I knew that we had to focus on getting a good safety car restart. Happened 3 times, we executed 3 times, and then we managed to pull a gap at the end, pass the car over to Enzo, and he did a phenomenal job and finished the race where he started.
Well, congratulations. Go and enjoy the celebrations. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Daniel Frost and Enzo Peugeot. Peugeot, the voice you heard first of all, but for two young guys, there's older heads on those shoulders, you might say, and it's like they've been racing in this Michelin Le Mans Cup camp for several years. Maybe that's the experience that RHGP bring to them. So an action-packed affair, I think it's fair to say. Way too much action for the race direction and for the marshals to have to deal with, and it all began heading down into the first corner. First two cars remained clean, but then as the Campos Racing cars tried to go two abreast through turn two, that just was not going to fit, and the spin for the second of those cars on the grid, August Reber, hands up in the air for those associated with RHGP, but amazingly they got through. There was some contact though for the McLaren on the rear of the 51 Ferrari, and making the wall at pretty high speed, Philipp Lindberg, who'd started up as high as 9th position. Then Alessandro Cozzi into the back of the number 11 Code Racing Development, Sebastian Moreno, pitching him off the road. A rather hot-headed occasion as well into turn 5 for the 15 car from LMP3, which would leave that car stranded in the gravel and the need for further intervention. And the biogas Ferrari also going for a rotation again after some contact from Alessandro Cozzi. This was the 21 Ferrari getting hooked up with an LMP3 car. The car then would go no further, sadly. 49 high-class racing car for Michael Howe. Ferrari's put on a good battle. This at the time was for second and third in GT3, behind the then leading McLaren. Lorenzo Innocenti running a tad wide and just avoiding some contact. They were also fighting again as there was contact with the McLaren, but a good overtake around the outside for Ray Acosta, the third in Ferrari number 88. There were one or two question marks about this overtake, purely about the build-up, but I think we can put those aside now for number 85, at the time Danielle Frost, and Enzo Peugeot taking that car over. Side-by-side action for Valentin Haas-Clos in his attempts to get ahead of David Fuminelli at the time. Eventually he would do that here, coming from a long way back, but very confident on the brakes for that number 10 Aston Martin. Down the inside, couldn't see one hint of contact, and that was Philippe Saga's reaction to see his man go through. And then a worrying moment for Enzo Peugeot, because he nearly dumped his 85 car in the gravel, but actually dealt with the aftermath very well indeed. This was the fight for the third step of the podium in LMP3 Pro-Am, which kept us properly engaged into the closing stages. And then the 50 car of Colin Queen. How about this? A double overtake in the space of as many corners. And Colin Queen, no wonder he was so happy at 23 events racing, like he'd won the race, but in fact it was second position. Side-by-side action as well between the 54 Porsche of Matteo Cressoni and the red Kessel Racing Ferrari of David Fuminelli. No way by in the end, despite the dynamic Porsche being a nose ahead for a brief spell. 85 though, heading out of the final corner just as David Fuminelli would leave the racetrack, potentially after contact with Cressoni's Porsche. That's going to be investigated after the race. But in LMP3, a win for Enzo Peugeot in his number 85 car, sharing that with Danielle Frost. LMP3 Pro-Am going the way of Breton Racing, number 62, and a win for the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans, Aston Martin in GT3.
And while you're running through that, Johnny, it can tell you that was a drive-through penalty assessed for the second place finisher in GT, the dynamic GT Porsche. That's 30 seconds, not enough to lose them second place.
And that was for the contact with the
Yes.
number 17 Ferrari, David Fuminelli, at the final corner. So they're given a penalty, but it doesn't change the eventual result. I hope that's pretty much everything dealt with now, but you never know. The result will remain provisional for the time being. However, sufficient enough for us to begin the podium presentation, and there will be 3 individual podium presentations, of course, for the 3 different categories in this year's Michelin Le Mans Cup. as always, the excellent podium here at Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, which is a copy of the lap here, the race track, and its footprint. So extra special also in the fact that it sort of juts out, not quite to the extent of Monza's podium, which is almost above the racetrack itself, but it extends out towards the crowd, which I hope is still smaller, but still it is present in the large grandstand sitting opposite this very special podium. And superbly floodlit in the now dwindling sunshine that we had for much of today. Big question marks as to what weather we may be given tomorrow, by the way, and if there is a shower, when might it arrive in and around the European Le Mans Series opener. 4 hours to be done there, of course, for the 4 hours of Barcelona for 2026. But first of all, the podium for the LMP3s, and we welcome to said podium Lena Bula and Zach Skula, who finish in third position for RACE-GP. Second place in the 50, 23 events racing car, Giovanni Mascio and Colin Queen with an excellent drive to the flag. But the race winners, and perhaps not the first win that they will be getting, not the only win that they will be getting for the whole of this season. Danielle Frost and Enzo Peugeot. I was about to say barely put a foot wrong, but actually Enzo Peugeot really did have a heart-in-mouth moment coming out of turn 14 where he dropped the car in the gravel. That could have been a whole lot worse. But RACE-GP going from strength to strength, certainly in the case of race victories in this season opener. Here's the national anthem of the winning team.
Proud moment for an ambitious young team. Dominant winners of the title, of course, last season, and they've started out, Johnny Palmer, in a dominant way here this evening.
They're certainly going to be one of the main teams to be reckoned with, but I think Campus will get better. They'll become more used to how to run in this championship, and will certainly give RACE-GP a run for their money in terms of pole positions this year, and I think Muka Motorsport are going to get quicker as well. Then you add into the mix those more established teams, Team Virage, More Motorsport, Forestier Racing by VPS. Another exciting season in LMP3 for sure. And remember that all of these cars will be part of a 3-hour Road to Le Mans event during the Friday before the 24 hours of Le Mans. So rather than 2 shorter races, the longest race of the year will be the new thing for this 10th anniversary of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, although season 11, as Steph Wentworth correctly said at the start of our broadcast.
Well, I'd say a much better second half than we had first half in terms of the racing action. A few people, I think, from the first half need a bit of a word with themselves, but we'll move on beyond that to some cracking stuff in the final third and more of this race. Pyrotechnics fire up. The battle now is who can get the top off the champagne quickly. It's a dead heat.
well, it's going to be very hazardous for anybody else up on that podium in the near future. We've still got 2 more to do. So LMP3 Pro-Am and GT3 will be up next. But here, though, is the result in the LMP3. This is the overall classification. So RSGP win by 8.4 seconds over 23 events racing in RSGP. So a clean sweep of French squads. Then the home outfit of Brutal Fish by Campos, Forestier Racing by VPS, and of Poland, Team Virage finishing in 6th position. Breton Racing are the winners in LMP3 Pro-Am. We will be seeing Leo Robinson and his teammate Jacek Zielonka very shortly. From Rinaldi Racing's number 66 car, they finished 16th and 19th overall, and in 3rd position the 24 car of Racing Spirit of Le Mans, with Oscar Christensen bringing that car to the flag. And on the next slate, actually just at the bottom of that one, you'll see the numbers with the black backing, and they are the GT3s. So Racing Spirit of Le Mans, Aston Martin take the opening win of the season from Matteo Crisoni, despite having to soak up that penalty for the late race contact. Dynamic GT and SMC Motorsports complete the podium in the brand new McLaren to this, well, the brand new team to this championship.
Gives us a Spanish team on a podium this evening.
Yeah, it does indeed. You're quite right to point that out, and might not have been many people's favourites to make the podium either.
Now joined by the winners in LMP2 Pro-Am, it's the number 62 Breton Racing. Jacek, starting off, it was quite difficult, but we saw that you've got quite a lot of pace compared to the rest of the field from qualifying.
Yes, exactly. We had a pace all the weekend, and exactly in the first corner I was first, but then suddenly something happened in turn 3, so I released the throttle and Burkaso used it. And later, okay, it was just managing to stay behind because I knew it, that we have a pace, and if I give the car to Leo, he will be on P1 and finish the race. So
Brought it home perfectly well. Happy with that performance?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race. Probably the most boring race of my life, stuck behind the back of the LMP3 pack, but you know, it was good. We got the car out of the pits. The most important thing in the Pro-Am is no damage, and Jacek did a wonderful job. We came out the car P2, I came out the pits, and I had to overtake a couple of cars, but then after that I was away. I just go around. Most boring hour of my life, but we won anyway, so it's good.
Congratulations, enjoy the celebrations.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure Leo will take 5 more races just like that.
Just that boring.
Yeah, exactly. And another hour at Le Castellet in the same vein, an hour and a half at Le Mans. That's how you win championships. It can be the most boring affairs, but you get to drink the champagne at the end of the season. RSGP will take the point for pole and the maximum points for the win. 26, therefore, giving them a lead of 6 points over 23, of 8 points rather, over 23 events racing. And RSGP in 3rd, Daniel Frost, Enzo Peugeot, Colin Queen and Giovanni Mascio from Lena Bula and teammate Zach Skula. We've just seen all 6 of them on the podium, and now we turn our attention to the GT3.
No, this is the LMP3 Pro-Am.
It's the LMP3 Pro-Am.
So
That's good. Okay, fine.
This is
Racing Spirit of Le Mans overalls that rather confused me, but we will be seeing them as race winners in the next podium.
That was a fighting run to a podium from that pair.
So Christian Gysi and Oscar Christensen finish in 3rd position. 2nd place, the 66 car of Steve Parrow and Mikkel Pedersen. The win goes to number 62, Jacek Zielonka, Leo Sammy Robinson. We've just heard from the 2 of them. So for the team from the Czech Republic, Czechia, Breton Racing are the winners. And we will hear the national anthem right now. Jacek Zielonka of Poland, Leo Sammy Robinson of Algeria / the United Kingdom, and Breton Racing, car number 62, victorious. I'm trying to recall how many races Breton Racing might have won in the past.
They were champions of the Asia Le Mans Series 2 years ago. I'm pretty certain they won.
But at European level,
Don't think they've
I
ever
don't think
won
it's
it.
that frequent,
No.
if at all. So bringing their experience from the Asian Le Mans Series to, yes, properly start to, well, maybe start to be a strong contender. Mustn't get too far ahead of ourselves. It's only the first race of 6. As the presentations are now made.
They won a single race, I believe, on their way to the title. This may well be their second ever.
So Mathieu Bonadel, the Michelin Motorsports director, doing the honours in presenting these trophies. Now the champagne can be cracked open. And a warm shower might be required to get rid of the champagne stink, although you probably want to keep that on for at least another 15-20 minutes or so to properly know that you have experienced the race win. Breton Racing didn't get pole, so 1 point fewer than RHGP, but it'll be a lead of 7 to take to Le Castellet in 3 weekends' time. Rinaldi Racing second, Racing Spirit of Le Mans in third, then Rinaldi into Europol and Motorsport 98 in a fading Gillian Henrion car for some reason. And that was a bit strange because 98 looked very, very strong, and that it might be on course for a podium before, sadly, the pace of that dropped away. And I can't think it was anything to do with Gillian himself.
Yeah, the extra point for pole this time into Europol. Sit down in 5th place, my apologies. Jacek Zielonka, Leo Semi Robinson, of course, lead the points from Mikkel Gardner-Pedersen, Steve Parrow, Christian Gysi, and Oscar Christensen form the top 3. Some racing in amongst this lot, Johnny, that bodes well for later in the season when things have calmed down a little. And in all 3 classes as well, there's quality there, without a doubt.
So we have GT3 to end the segment of interviews. Steph Wentworth has been busy behind the scenes making sure that we can get reaction from the eventual winning team, despite a penalty as well post-race.
Joined by the GT3 winners here, it's the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Philippe, how was that stint for you? It was broken up a little bit, but good?
Well, my stint was I didn't have a lot of driving time. You know, I was lucky to stay out of troubles, accidents. Obviously, there was a mistake on my side during safety car, so we got a penalty. That was on purpose, so he wasn't too bored.
And a fantastic stint from you. Of course, we know just how fast you are behind the wheel.
Well, thank you. But first of all, without a great car, that's impossible. So thank you to Racing Spirit of Le Mans for all the effort they put together to have us on track this weekend. Thank you to Philippe for his trust. Thank you to him for staying out of trouble, because it was like a rental car race at the beginning. And eventually we won the race. That's very cool.
Okay, well done. Congratulations. Enjoy the celebration.
Well, that's a quote that I will remember moving forward. He's got it spot on, Valentin Haas-Clos, and I have to say that his stint wasn't necessarily without contact, because there were those moments when he was trying to get ahead of David Fuminelli exiting turn 12, but the eventual overtake to give him the race lead, and then so that he could extend it beyond the 10 seconds that he needed, was absolutely terrific. Charging his way down the inside, so late on the brakes on Fuminelli, so much so that he just had no response. And then Fuminelli subsequently would not finish the race after contact with the number 54 Dynamic GT crew. But third position for the new name, SMC Motorsport, to the Championship of Spain as well. So Spanish team, as Graham's mentioned, on the podium for Gonzalo de Andres Martin and Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. Second position going to Dynamic GT. They also took a penalty, but it didn't affect their road position for Reinhold Kran and Matteo Cresoni. But here are the winners. We just heard from them for Racing Spirit of Le Mans. Philippe Saga and Valentin Hasclot. And it will again be the national anthem of France that we hear for the winners in GT3. So handshakes all around. Might be fewer handshakes when they meet one or two other members of the GT3 field in the paddock that didn't actually make the podium. But here's the national anthem. Are we going to do national? Oh, we're going to do a presentation first, in fact, it looks like. So the trophies to be handed out again from Michelin Motorsport. And here is the national anthem in the background as Gaël Rigiex does the honours, the Michelin Motorsport competition manager. We will get to those national anthems very shortly. There's, I'm sure, going to be a chance to pause before the champagne sprays. But then again, asking drivers to stop taking the corks out is a tricky challenge. Here's the national anthem of France. The final podium of the first meaningful racing day of the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup weekend and the Ligier European Series is done. Now a chance to do some final spraying of the champagne. That is it for the Ligier European Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup for this weekend at Barcelona. And we, after a decent night's sleep, we hope, can look ahead to the build-up of the ELMS, the first 4-hour race of their season. But Racing Spirit of Le Mans will leave the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya with a 7-point advantage over their near rivals Dynamic GT with their two drivers Matteo Cressoni and Reinhard Kran. And then it's Gonzalo de Andres Martin of Spain, third position at his home race. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer with 15 points as well, ahead of Marco Bononomi and Ray Acosta. Alessandro Cozzi and Eliseo Dono with, to a certain degree, a race to forget, but they were classified as finishers ahead of the 21 Kessel Racing Ferrari. That was a little difficult to get through, certainly Graham, for the first hour or so, but it manifested itself into a really decent race, and I think we've got a lot of teams who could potentially do some winning this year.
I think so. There was good signs in the second half of that race that there's some thrills and maybe fewer spills to come. As I say, a couple of teams and drivers who want a quick word for themselves about some of the shenanigans, but really encouraging signs. We've got some quality and depth here this season.
Thanks to all the members of the R8CC who had a busy last couple of hours as well, dealing with debris, dealing with stranded cars too. It is a matter of only 3 weeks before we are racing again at Le Castellet, the Circuit Paul Ricard, for a Saturday afternoon/evening 2-hour race for round 2 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Thank you to Steph Wentworth, who's been working hard just over there, in fact, in the pit lane and underneath the podium. There'll be plenty more from Steph tomorrow for our ELMS coverage that begins at 11:35 local time for a midday start. From the Michelin Le Mans Cup, though, we will see you in the south of France. Bye-bye.